Hey everyone, welcome to FanFic Canon. Thanks for hitting play. I'm thrilled to bring this fan-made story to life for you. If you enjoy the ride and want more narrated fanfics, smash, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss an episode. And if you want audiobook of a novel of your choice, join my Patreon. Request any title that's freely available online, and I'll produce a full narration just for you. Now, let's dive into today's adventure.
Hearing the bold declaration from Kamen Rider Holy Blade, Luo Hao, who had been watching quietly from the rear, gave a faint nod. He seemed satisfied with the young swordsman's resolve. "Hey kid, catch!" The familiar voice sounded from behind. Inside his armor, Kamiyama Talma immediately turned around. "Luo Hao-san, is something wrong?" He knew from experience that whenever Luo Hao spoke during battle, it usually meant something important. Before Talma could react further, Luo Hao flicked his wrist. Somehow, a new Wonder Ride book had already appeared in his hand. The Needle Hedgehog book spun through the air as he tossed it forward casually. To Luo Hao, it was nothing more than an extra item. But for the current Kamen Rider Holy Blade, it was exactly the power he needed. Talma caught it instinctively. "Oh, a brand new ride book," he said, surprised. "Hedgehog, this should work perfectly against that Megid." As he spoke, his gaze shifted toward the salamander Megid standing ahead. Determination filled his eyes. Now he held two additional books in his hands. Beside him, Kamen Rider Buster immediately noticed. "Hey, wait." Buster warned, his voice sharp. "Don't do anything reckless." He stepped closer, concern clear in his tone. "With your current strength, you can't handle 3 books at once. Even experienced swordsmen need countless battles to control triple book power." He wasn't exaggerating. Talma had only become a swordsman 2 days ago. Attempting something like this was incredibly dangerous, but Holy Blade didn't hesitate. "Then, I'll test it myself." Before anyone could stop him, he inserted the 2 books into the Seiken driver at his waist. Henshin. With a decisive pull, he drew the Rekka sword from the belt. Flames surged. The fire draws the sword. When 3 books unite, the power within the sacred blade erupts. Wonder Rider, Dragon, Hedgehog, Peter, Fantasista, the triple attribute blade descends. Light exploded across the battlefield. As the transformation announcement ended, a brand new form of Kamen Rider Holy Blade appeared before everyone, radiating fresh power. Kamen Rider Buster stared in disbelief at Kamen Rider Holy Blade. He simply couldn't accept what he was seeing. A rookie who had only become a swordsman 2 days ago was successfully using 3 Wonder Ride books at the same time. But reality stood right in front of him, leaving no room for denial. All he could do was silently acknowledge Talma's extraordinary talent. Luo Hao, however, reacted very differently. He had already understood long ago that Kamiyama Talma's potential was far beyond ordinary. That was precisely why he had been willing to hand over the ride book earlier. After all, mastering the powers of a Kamen Rider in just a few days was proof enough of exceptional ability. "Let's test this first," Holy Blade muttered. A hook-shaped weapon appeared in his hand. Without hesitation, he swung and launched it toward the salamander Megid. The monster twisted to dodge, but Holy Blade immediately pulled back, the chain wrapping around its body and locking it in place. The salamander Megid struggled violently, trying to break free, but it couldn't overcome the restraint. Seeing his chance, Holy Blade pressed the Needle Hedgehog ride book into the driver. "Needle Hedgehog." A clear sound echoed across the battlefield. Holy Blade slashed forward, red, yellow, and blue sword energy spiraling around his blade as it tore through the Megid. The monster staggered but didn't fall. It tried to retreat, desperately attempting to escape, but in the next instant, countless sharp spikes erupted around its body. Boom! The spikes exploded simultaneously, engulfing the Megid in a violent burst. Buster watched in surprise. "That fighting style," his voice trailed off. The creativity and fluidity of Holy Blade's attacks clearly caught him off guard. Luo Hao merely smiled faintly. Of course it wouldn't end that easily. Amid the smoke, the salamander Megid struggled back to its feet, glaring fiercely at Holy Blade. With a roar, it charged again. Holy Blade reacted instantly. He stepped forward and drove a heavy kick into its head. A thunderous impact echoed. Dragon, Hedgehog, Peter, Fantasista. The power of the 3 books surged together. With a deafening roar, the salamander Megid's body shattered into fragments, exploding into a crimson cloud of energy. Luo Hao watched the explosion with mild interest. "Not bad," he said quietly. Holy Blade then plunged his sword back into the driver. Triple strike, blazing finish. Energy gathered once more. A fiery dragon and a spirit-like figure manifested around him, circling his body as he prepared the final blow. He pressed the button on the sword's hilt. "Read it and finish." The salamander Megid collapsed to the ground. For a brief moment, silence fell over the battlefield. Then a winged spirit emerged from the fading energy, transforming into a glowing female figure before charging forward alongside Holy Blade's attack. Watching the scene unfold, Luo Hao's lips curved slightly. This is getting interesting. Holy Blade lowered his sword, his voice calm and firm. The ending of this story belongs to me. Thank you for the spiked hedgehog, Luo Hao sang. Fei Yuzhen released her transformation and handed the spike hedgehog in her hand to Luo Hao, and Luo Hao did not accept Fei Yuma's spike hedgehog. Just accept it, Fei Yuzhen. But this power is still very important to you. Hearing Luo Hao's words, Fei Yuzhen showed a hearty smile and then politely bowed to Luo Hao. Then I'll accept it with a smile, Luo Hao sang. One Luo Hao waved his hand, did not speak, but turned and left Fei Yuzhen and the others. After Luo Hao left, dentists Sudu and Xiao Kong, who were trapped in this world, returned to the place where they got the white fantasy drive book. After experiencing this incident, Xiao Kong seems to like books. Before leaving, he even suggested to Fei Yuzhen whether he could read more books. And Xiao Kong's change made Fei Yu really happy because he completed the agreement with Xiao Kong, which made Xiao Kong fall in love with books. Okay, let's go too, Ma Fi said to Rintaro, who was beside him. But when they were about to leave here, an uninvited guest slowly walked towards them. This uninvited guest is also a swordsman, and his whole body is made up of purple, white, and black. And this uninvited guest is the Wang Jian who defected 15 years ago. It was also because of him that many swordsmen gave their lives, including Rantaro's master. Rantaro's eyes suddenly burst into anger. After all, the person in front of him didn't kill his master with his own hands. But to a certain extent, her master's death had a great relationship with Wang Jian. Suddenly, Fei Yu really flashed many memories from 15 years ago in his mind. This guy is the swordsman I saw in my dream. Fei Yuzhen looked at Wang Jian in front of him, showing an incredible expression. But it was clear that Wang Jian had no intention of discussing with them. He raised his sword and charged towards Fei Yuma and Rantaro. Seeing that the situation is not good, Ma Fi and Rantaro quickly turned into Kamen Rider Sacred Blade and Kamen Rider Buster to challenge. But after all, their strength is still impossible to compare with the experienced Wang Jian. After a few reincarnations, the two Kamen Riders were knocked to the ground by Wang Jian. Why is it so powerful? The two Kamen Riders on the ground said in unbelievable voices, but Wang Jian ignored them and asked Kamen Rider Saint on his own. Can you call me the Fire Sword, Fire and the Dragon of Courage? Seeing that Kamen Rider Saint Blade ignored him, he pressed the button on the hilt. Yue Anju, flash after reading. I saw Wang Jian's sword surrounded by 500 groups of purple-black lightning. Then he raised his sword and used it to slash. A purple-black lightning charged towards Kamen Rider Sacred Blade and the others, just in the nick of time. A black knight jumped out and blocked the attack for Kamen Rider Sacred Blade. And this black knight is Kamen Rider Toki King. Kamen Rider Shi Wang turned his head to look at the Kamen Rider Sacred Blade who was lying on the ground and sighed helplessly. Because I can't worry about you two half-assed, I'm back again. It looks like I'm doing nothing wrong. And Kamen Rider Sacred Blade looked at the Kamen Rider Tokyo in front of him with some gratitude and said, Thank you, Luo Hao sang. Wang Jian looked at Kamen Rider Tokyo in front of him. Although he had already heard the great name of Kamen Rider Shiwang from the mouths of his companions, but before he saw himself for the first time, he was still shocked by the intimidating power of Kamen Rider Shiwang. It seemed that the Kamen Rider in front of him was no ordinary person. If you keep fighting, don't talk about the Dragon of Courage, it can't even save his own life. 36 strategies, walking is the best strategy. Now the best thing to do is to retreat. Wang Jian deliberately used a disdainful tone to speak to Kamen Rider Shiwang. It would be too boring to end the game now, so I'll spare you all with reluctance. After saying that, Wang Jian turned into a ball of black lightning and disappeared. Although Luo Hao knew that Wang Jian just wanted to get away domineeringly, but now it's more important to send Heba Ma and the others back to the bookstore. Therefore, Wang Jian, the troublesome guy, should find a chance to solve it in the future. We're going back, Ma Heba Rintaro. Luo Hao stretched out his hands to Ma Fei and Rintaro. Ma Fei and Rintaro stood up and returned to the bookstore with Luo Hao. Wonderland, the Sword of Truth, Dark Swordsman King Sword and Megiddo. Even after returning to the bookstore, Fei Yuzhen was still haunted by what had just happened. He wrote the words he just said on a piece of A4 paper. He held his hands and looked at the words on the A4 paper with a little thought. Because he was so focused, he didn't notice Sudu Mei who walked into the bookstore. As Mayutoba's editor, Sudu Meadows thought that the A4 pages were the latest novels written by Mayutoba. But when she leaned over to read it, she was disappointed to find that these were just words related to the world of swordsmen. And her cell phone rang at this moment, just when Sudu Mei was discussing with the editor-in-chief who just called. Fei Yu really recalled what happened yesterday. They're really targeting fantasy-driven books. Natural disaster Wang Giant, they really started to act. The bloody Uncle Ryo Agami dragged his big sword and said angrily to the crowd, "Cause a mutation and create a dangerous new book." And Wang Jian wants to steal Fei Yu's true dragon of courage. Hearing Rentero's explanation, everyone immediately turned their attention to Fei Yuzhen, and Fei Yuzhen took out his dragon of courage and drive and explained a little stupidly. Thanks to Luo Hao sang, he didn't succeed. Hearing Fei Yuzhen's words, Luo Hao smiled and said, "No, it's nothing." Then he changed a serious tone and said to the crowd, "If your drives and magical drive books are stolen, the consequences will be unimaginable. Yeah, so I'm going to find the enemy's hideout. Otherwise, it is too passive." Rentero followed Luo Hao's words and put forward his own views. "So let's hurry up and find those guys' lair and then see me knock them all down in one Li's tone." Uncle Agami Ryo, who spoke carelessly, also put forward the same opinion. "You are too messy." A loud male voice interrupted them. Then a handsome man walked in from the door. Then he leaned close to Fei Yuzhen, covered his mouth with his left hand, and asked in an exaggerated tone, "You just used 3 books, right? It's so messy I can feel the fire of the fire sword crying." Seeing the handsome man behaving strangely in front of him, Fei Yu was obviously frightened. Then he asked the other party in a polite tone, "Who are you?" But the other party ignored him but snatched the drive holy sword from his hand. His name is Dakin Temple Zhexing, and he is a swordsman in charge of repairing the holy sword. Rantero, who was a little embarrassed, explained this to Ma Fei, and Dakin Temple Zhexing stared at the data of the holy sword and the drive on the screen. Then he shook his head and said to Fei Yuzhen a little angrily, "You really are that? You didn't even use half of the power of the holy sword." Hearing Zhexing's words from Dakin Temple, Luo Hao smiled. 500 because he felt that Fei Yu was really a novice, and it was good to be able to exert the power of the holy sword. After all, Fei Yu really knows nothing about the power of Kamen Rider's holy blade. Then Luo Hao cleared his throat and said to Dakin Temple Zhexing, "Dakin C. Zhexing, help him read the Fantasy Drive book." Tweaked his Fantasy Drive book and drive by the way. "No problem." Zhexing of Dakin Temple made an okay gesture to Luo Hao, and then took the Fantasy Drive book from Fei Yuzhen's hands, after handing over his Fantasy Drive book to Zhexing of Qin Temple in Daqing. Fei Yuzhen noticed that the sage beside him always had the expression that others owed him money. He held his hands up as if thinking about something. "What are you doing?" Because the sage's actions were not at all different from usual, Fei Yu really said hello to the sage with some concern. Fei Yuzhen's words interrupted the sage's thoughts and he replied a little embarrassedly, "It's okay, I'll definitely stop that guy." The sage knew Tao's answer to Ma Zui's answer made Fei Yuzhen show a confused expression again. The people around them all stared at the sage with strange eyes. Luo Hao, who was watching from the sidelines, naturally knew why the atmosphere was so awkward. After all, this young man named Xianren is the son of Wang Jian who defected 15 years ago, because of his father. In the process of growing up, sages have suffered many strange eyes. Although there are friends like Fei Yuzhen to accompany him, but he still suffered a lot because of his father, so he made a promise to himself. Be sure to drag your father out of the endless darkness. That's why he chose to become a swordsman. Why don't you go and see what's going on with him? Luo Hao posed and said to him politely, worrying about her friend. Fei Yuzhen quickly ran out of the bookstore. "Thank you," Luo Hao sang. "This way you can better use the power of Kamen Rider's holy blade." Fei Yuzhen's memories of yesterday were also interrupted. Hearing this, Fei Yu bowed to Luo Hao with some excitement. "Oh, by the way, the sage's situation doesn't seem to be very good. Young people today are really anxious." Luo Hao's words made Fei Yuzhen look anxious. Then Luo Hao tilted his head and thought for a moment, decided to say the rest. "It's just one thing, nothing." Looking at Fei Yuzhen's back, Luo Hao sighed. "Zhexing of Dakin Temple has already adjusted the Holy Sword, Drive and Magic Drive book for you. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running." After all, since yesterday, he felt that something was wrong with Xianren. Luo Hao walked beside him and handed him the Holy Sword, the Drive, and the Magic Drive book. At this moment, the door of the bookstore was opened by Luo Hao. Just when Fei Yuzhen was looking for a sage, a muscular man stepped onto the roof. He is the cadre of Megiddo Zeos. "It's time to hunt." Then Zeos opened a Fantasy Drive book. Piranha's Lunch, Under a loud sound, countless pieces of gray-white paper were drilled out of the fantasy drive book. A pepper fish Megiddo appeared in his eyes. Ming, what are you doing here alone? An unfriendly voice appeared in Zio's ears. He looked back and found that Luo Hao appeared in his eyes as the companion said, when Fei Yuzhen went to find a lover. Luo Hao in the bookstore suddenly felt an unfriendly atmosphere out of the idea of catching big fish. Luo Hao came here alone. Unexpectedly, he really encountered a big fish. Zeus looked at Luo Hao in front of him with disdain and said, I know you are very strong, but even you, Kamen Rider Toki King, in front of me Zio-sama, I'm just a little scumbag. Hearing what Zio said, Luo Hao smiled slightly, took out the spacetime drive in his hand and said, you can't see that. Then he put the belt around his waist and hung a Time King First Order dial on the spacetime drive. Transformation. After all, Luo Hao rotated the spacetime drive 360 degrees. RIDRTME. Then a huge clock appeared behind Luo Hao. After that, the hands on the clock moved rapidly. A bunch of watch straps wrapped Luo Hao. Kamen Rider Zio, King of Time. Not long after, a black knight appeared in the eyes of Zeus, and he is the king of Kamen Rider. Zeus wanted to fight Kamen Rider Tokyo in front of him, but his partner told him to hurry up and finish the task. And really want to fight with this Kamen Rider King Saint Toki in front of him. I can't finish it in a while, so I can only wait until later. Out of desperation, Zeus turned into a weirdo and left here with Megiddo, the pepper fish. Disappeared in Kamen Rider Tokyuang's eyes. It's really a disappointment. Before the fight started, he became a deserter. Ask for flowers. However, it is estimated that after a while they will find trouble with those half-hearted people. I have to act quickly. After chatting for a while, Fei Yuzhen looked at the sage's expression and returned to its previous innocence. But when the sage heard this sentence, he fell into silence again. Only then did he ask him why he had become weird since Wang Jian came out. Not a word was said, then left the rooftop. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. For the sake of his friends, Fei Yu really didn't ask the wise man what was bothering him. Just then, Fei Yuzhen found a cruise ship wrapped in a huge book. Instead, he chatted with him about a book he had read in his childhood to soothe his mood. At this moment, on another rooftop, Fei Yuzhen found a sage. After all, Kamen Rider Shuang also left the rooftop. So they said in unison, let's go. As for the unspeakable secret of the sage, he plans to tell Fei Yuzhen when he is mature. After all, it is still too difficult for a sage to tell his friends that his father is a traitor. And he and Xianren quickly realized that it was Megiddo's ghost. Feather Ma and the others quickly arrived at the scene, as they thought this is the ghost of Megiddo. Because a Sancho fish Megiddo appeared in front of their eyes, it looked at Fei Yuzhen and Xianren, who appeared in front of him, and said in a mocking tone, I didn't expect the bait to come so quickly. The sage looked at Megiddo, the Sancho fish in front of him, with firm eyes and said, no matter what, I will stop him 503, and there will be no hesitation. Rather than saying this to Fei Yuzhen, the sage said it to himself. He wanted to get rid of his past and his father, the traitorous swordsman. Then he took out a yellow magic drive book. LAMPDOLNGNA Arikina lamp, exotic, a magical lamp with incredible power, has been handed down from ancient times in a foreign country. Accompanied by the familiar sound effects, the sage placed the magic drive book on the drive. After preparing for a while, he did not hesitate to pull out the holy sword in the drive. Huang Lei draws his sword, become. After speaking, the sage waved the holy sword in his hand, and then a magic lamp surrounded him. LAMPDOLNGNA Arikina magic lamp, Huang Lei's volume. When the magic lamp, golden gun, and the thunder sword Huang Lei merged, the sword of lightning will burst with dazzling light. After the sound effect ended, a golden and white Kamen Rider appeared in front of Mahiba and the others. This Kamen Rider is Kamen Rider Espada. Sancho Fish Megiddo saw Kamen Rider Espada appearing in front of him. Without a word, he rushed towards him. And Kamen Rider Espada also quickly took up the sword to counterattack. Although the attack of Sanjiao Fish Megiddo is intensive and unpredictable, but Kamen Rider Espada relies on his skilled fighting skills. It can defuse the attack of Sanjiao Fish Megiddo just right every time. Kamen Rider Espada stepped on both feet when he saw that Megiddo was at a disadvantage. Kamen Rider Espada, who was leaping in the air, raised his sword. RAMIKNIKAZUCHA Thunder Sword Huang Lei. After the sound effect sounded, a circle of golden lightning appeared on Kamen Rider Espada's sword. And he also took advantage of the situation and slashed the sword wrapped with golden lightning at Megiddo Zero. Just when Kamen Rider Espada and Sancho Fish Megiddo were fighting, the fire draws the sword, transform. This person is the King's sword who hanged them before. At this time, Kamen Rider Sacred Blade also discovered something wrong. Bravdragon, Dragon of Courage. When he wanted to rescue the passengers trapped in the cruise ship, an unexpected person appeared in front of his eyes. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The two swords collided. Fei Yu really heard the cries for help from the passengers on the cruise ship. Just hear the sound of smashing. Fei Yuzhen waved the holy sword in his hand, and then he turned into the Kamen Rider Holy Blade. So he put the driver on his waist and pulled out the holy sword in the driver. The power of the drive that Wang Giant's belt has been absorbing. He walked slowly to the Kamen Rider Sacred Blade like a king. Kamen Rider Saint took the blade to block. Give me the Dragon of Courage and the Fire Sword. 2-6 repeats what he said before. Then he raised his sword and swung it towards the Kamen Rider Holy Blade. Maybe it's because the repelling of the two drives is just too strong. It didn't take long for the two facing each other to be bounced off by a huge repulsive force. The Kamen Rider Sacred Sword also fell to the ground ruthlessly. Wang Jian looked at the Kamen Rider Sacred Blade lying on the ground and said suddenly, "So it is." Looking at him, he seemed to understand why he couldn't absorb Kamen Rider Saint's power. At this time, Kamen Rider Espada, who had dealt with Megiddo, the Sancho fish, also saw his father. One, because he was so angry, he rushed towards Wang Jian without saying a word. Step aside. Kamen Rider Espada, who was running all the way, pushed away Kamen Rider Saint, who had just stood up. Raise the sword in your hand to fight your father, the current enemy. Wang Jian is naturally not a vegetarian. Even in the face of the powerful Kamen Rider Espada, he does not have the slightest advantage. Kamen Rider Saint, however, felt strange to Tsu, because it was the first time he saw the sage so angry. In his memory, Zionren was a very gentle boy. No matter how bad the Feiyu was, the sages would not blame him. Instead, look at him with gentle eyes and work with him to solve the mistakes he made. But now, for some reason, the wise man has turned into an angry wolf. I just want to get rid of the Prey King's sword in front of him. What's wrong with you, sage? Kamen Rider Sacred Blade asked Kamen Rider Espada with concern. My business is none of your business. But Kamen Rider Espada doesn't appreciate Kamen Rider Sacred Blade's concern. Kamen Rider Sacred Blade wanted to help Kamen Rider Espada, but out of nowhere came out of a mountain pepper fish Megiddo and trapped him. Why betray us, father? Do you have any troubles? At this time, Kamen Rider Espada, who fought Wang Jian, still had the illusion that his father still had a little conscience. But the next second, Wang Jian's reply ruthlessly shattered his fantasy. The so-called light cannot satisfy my need for strength. Just when Kamen Rider Espada was about to be brought down, and Kamen Rider Espada is also ready for 503. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Then a black sword energy appeared from the sword in his hand. Jaakudragon, Evil Dragon. With a rumbling sound, the black sword energy collided with Kamen Rider Espada's lightning, and he also swung the sword towards Wang Jian. Then you can sleep well in the dark. Must book guide. In such a brilliant and powerful scene, Kamen Rider Tokyo and Sancho Fish Megiddo, who were stabbed next to them, were forced to cover their eyes with their hands. After all, Kamen Rider Espada clicked the Fantasy Drive book on his drive. With clear sound, a bolt of lightning appeared on Kamen Rider Espada's sword. Then he raised his sword and swung it towards Kamen Rider Espada. Lampdo Arikina Magic Lamp. A handsome young man blocked Wang Jian's attack for Kamen Rider Espada with his body. Moon darkness will surely strike. When Wang Jian saw this, he also took out a purple magic drive book and sensed it with the sword in his hand. And the young man who blocked Wang Jian's fatal blow with his body was Luo Hao. The people around stared at Luo Hao in astonishment, including Wang Jian, who just launched the attack. After all, they have never seen a mortal who can block the kills of other Kamen Riders without becoming a Kamen Rider. Luo Hao this time, although it seems ordinary, but it opened the eyes of everyone around. Luo Hao stared at Wang Jian in front of him with eyes like a little bug and said, "Sir, how long do you want to stay here?" Luo Hao's words pulled Wang Jian back from his thoughts. He is now very clear that with his current strength, it is impossible to fight the man in front of him. What's more, this man is still a huge question mark for them. It's easy to get hurt now. It seems that the Dragon of Courage can only wait until he obtains more powerful power to snatch it back from the Kamen Rider Sacred Blade. So, Wang Jian bowed to Luo Hao politely and without losing his demeanor. "Mr. Luo Hao, it seems that today's banquet is over." After saying that, Wang Jian disappeared from their eyes. It was not until Wang Jian disappeared completely that Megiddo, the Sancho fish, realized that he was alone now. And it is useless to escape because it has been surrounded by many Kamen Riders. Luo Hao showed a kind smile to Megiddo the pepper fish and said to it, "Sir, it seems that you can't go home today." After the Sancho fish Megiddo was dealt with, the cruise ship returned to normal. Trapped citizens were also freed. But the sage's heart was still unsolved. After all, he still doesn't know why the father he admired as a child would betray them. However, it is not the way to be entangled in this now. The most important thing is now. After all, he is not alone now and he has many companions with him. Thinking this way, the sage's mood is as happy as before. And Fei Yuzhen watched her friend return to normal, not only showing a gentle smile. It seems that he has fulfilled his promise to restore the wise man's smile. Suddenly, he remembered something and immediately ran to Luo Hao. Seeing the man's reaction, Zio stood up, smiled kindly at him and said, in a playful tone he emphasized again, ordinary people with mediocre talents. But for some reason, Luo Hao didn't fit in with the harmonious atmosphere of the scene. The real game has just begun. Son, because he suddenly felt that Rentaro and Sudu Mei were facing a crisis. There's a broken stall waiting for him to collect. The grumpy Zios didn't feel angry because of this. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. He sat casually on the chair and explained to the man in front of him in a dull tone. A man in a tight leather jacket was mocking Zios with disdain. Boasting about the sea, the result is this. Lee's good, ordinary people with mediocre talents think that this is the end. Then he put his face in front of the man in front of him. Thank you, Luo Hao sang, you saved our lives again. Then he bowed sharply to him. For Fei Yu's sincere thanks, he just casually said a word and then left the scene. The man in front of him ignored the muscular Zios and chose to remain silent. Arai-style rotary lottery machine. Rantaro looked at the lottery machine in front of him in disbelief. Then, in an exaggerated tone, he said, I've only read this in the book and I've wanted to play it for a long time. Seeing Rentaro so excited, Sudume was also very happy. Give. She gave the money to the grandfather who opened the stall and let Rantaro experience it. The old man looked at the two happy men and women in front of him. Then he stroked his beard and said with some nostalgia, Alas, I also had this happy couple life decades ago. After playing for a while with Lun 503 Taro and Sudume, they resumed their mission, look for Sancho Fish Mickey. But they searched for a long time, but they couldn't find Megiddo. During their break, Rentaro looked at Pseudo Meadows who was playing with his cell phone. She pointed at the app Pseudo May was playing and said, By the way, this software is quite convenient. And Pseudo May replied in a naive tone, If you rely on it to find it, will you agree to join me? What? I can think about it. For some reason, it was another voice that answered Pseudo May. Realizing that something was wrong, Rentaro quickly took Pseudo May's hand, pulled away from the master who made that voice. Then, without a word, Rentaro ran straight ahead while pulling Sudu Mei's office. At the moment, at the seaside. Rejecting the Sancho Fish Megiddo, the wise man thoughtfully said to Fei Yuzhen, Just now, the Sancho Fish Megiddo said that we seem to be the bait. Oh yes, I remembered. Judging from his habits, he should be a piranha, so there should be more than one. Afterwards, they nodded to each other and started their actions again. It didn't take long for Fei Yuzhen and Xianren to arrive at the scene. Just as they thought, a lot of piranhas appeared in front of them. But yes, Fei Yu was really not afraid, but took out a black magic drive book and said, Sure, it's here, but we'll figure it out. Go run, diagusbedy. It didn't take long for them to get rid of the piranha in front of them. And the sage also took out a magic drive book and said, Pull out the holy sword from the drive and become Kamen Rider Holy Blade and Kamen Rider Espada respectively. Makoto Hiba and Sento wore the driver around their waists. Gatrikphone. It's time to make a break. Then, they got on their motorcycles and headed in the direction of the piranhas. The real enemy is actually Megiddo, the Sancho fish that appears in front of them. After the familiar sound finished, a red motorcycle appeared in front of Fei Yuzhen. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. RIDGATRIKER Gatling gun car, under the whirring roar of the motorcycle engine. After all, these are nothing more than crumbs. Well, I won't hesitate anymore. I must bring him back from the endless darkness. Fei Yuzhen and Xianren said this in unison. Then, a yellow tricycle loaded with Gatling appeared in front of Sage. Kamen Rider Sacred Blade pointed at Megiddo the Sancho fish with his sword. Rentaro, what the hell is that? Sudume, who was dragged away by Rentaro, asked him in a puzzled way. And Rentaro ignored her. After all, leaving here is the most important thing for them now. Just when they distanced themselves from the cadre of Megiddo just now. A muscular man appeared in front of them. Ming, hello, now the game of cat and mouse is over. After all, the man put his hand on his shoulder and turned into an orc, And Rentaro also recognized that this person is Megiddo's cadre Zeos. There are wolves in front and tigers in the back. Looks like a fight is inevitable, so Taro Lun took out his drive and carried it around his waist. Then the holy sword in the drive was pulled out. The water draws the knife, transform. Then Rentaro wielded his holy sword and transformed into Cayman Rider blades. Zeos did not attack immediately, but carefully looked at the Cayman Rider blades in front of him. Then he said something that surprised Cayman Rider blades. Cayman Rider blades, didn't I kill you 15 years ago? Why do you have resurrection now? For some reason, Cayman Rider blades became a little restless after hearing what Zeos said. He looked at Zeos, who was pointing fingers at him, and asked angrily, "Could it be that you killed my master 15 years ago?" Hearing Cayman Rider Blade's angry speech, Zeos suddenly realized, "Oh, so you are that trash's apprentice. I thought he turned into a ghost and came to settle accounts with me. Boy, I advise you to get up and walk away. Even your master can't beat me, let alone you stinky little brat." The words of Zeos made the already angry Cayman Rider Blades even more angry. The master has always been a great and longing existence in his heart. Now someone dares to insult his master like this. For Cayman Rider Blades, this is an unforgivable sin. I want to take revenge for my master. Cayman Rider Blades, who lost his mind, raised his sword and charged towards Zeos. And it was Luo Hao, who he had met earlier, who made this sound. Seeing this, Zeos quickly counterattacked Cayman Rider Blade's attack. Zero asked for flowers, but unfortunately no one replied to her. Even if someone replied, it was useless. But because Cayman Rider Blade's heart only thinks about revenge. Sorry to disappoint you, but just as the words fell, a young man's voice entered his ears. He did not choose to escape at all, but blindly fought against the enemy in front of him and took revenge for his master. Obviously, with the strength of Cayman Rider Blades, how could it be possible for him to be able to fight against two cadres of Megiddo? And at this moment, another cadre from Megiddo who had just chased them down also came. Sudume squatted on the ground, holding the injured Rentaro. "Stop screaming, no one will come to save you even if you shout out loud. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running." Zeos looked at Rentaro and Mei Sudu in confusion and said, she shouted loudly, "Help." It didn't take long for Cayman Rider Blades to be knocked to the ground, releasing his transformation. For the Cayman Rider Blades, it's a 1-2 punch. Zeos looked at Luo Hao in confusion and asked him angrily, "Why is it you again? Why is it that you have come to harm my lord again?" Luo Hao took out the space-time drive and said coldly to Zeos in front of him, "I can't see my partner getting hurt." Sudume, who was holding the unconscious Rentaro, looked at Luo Hao in front of him and couldn't help but say, "So handsome." And Zeos doesn't have this 507 method. He said to the cadre next to him, who was also Megiddo, "Natural disaster, this outspoken guy will be handed over to me to deal with. You can just watch the show right next to you." Hearing the words of Zeos, the cadre of Megiddo named Natural Calamity took a step back and said, "Hopefully, you will give me a pleasant circus performance next time. Stop talking nonsense, open your eyes, and take a good look at the next battle of my lord." Transform quickly, Cayman Rider. Luo Hao did not reply to Zeos but inserted a Time King dial into the space-time drive. Transform. After all, Luo Hao rotated the space-time drive 360 degrees. RIDRTIME. Then a huge clock appeared behind Luo Hao. After that, the hands on the clock moved rapidly. A bunch of watch straps wrapped Luo Hao. Cayman Rider Zio, King of Time. It didn't take long for Luo Hao to become the king of Cayman Rider. Seeing the Cayman Rider Shi-King in front of him, Zeos smiled and said, "Yes, only by fighting with such a powerful force as you can I experience the thrill of hunting. You are so strange." With a simple rant, Cayman Rider Shiwang and Zeos started to fight. At the beginning, the strengths of the two sides were about the same. "It's all confronting me like you come and go." After all, both sides kept their hands and did not show their true strength. What's more, Luo Hao is now fighting against Zeos with the power of Wang Yiji when he was a Cayman Rider. If he wanted to, he could directly use the power of the Demon King to instantly kill the ignorant Zeos in front of him. But after all, the enemy in front of him is not the strongest. It's not good to show the trump card when you come up. And it's the same as what Zeos said. How could he experience the joy that battle brought him if he stunned his opponent as soon as he came up? After all, only by constantly chasing the prey can one experience the thrill of hunting. In this way, the two sides fought for several reincarnations. Zeos gradually felt powerless, but the Cayman Rider Shiwang in front of him still looked very relaxed. So Zeos took a big step back and distanced himself from Cayman Rider Tokyo. He looked at Cayman Rider Shiwang in front of him and said to him dismissively, I admit that you are a very strong warrior, and I haven't fought Kamen Rider for so long, because the enemies I encountered before were just too weak. But now I'm tired of playing, so the farce ended as early as 6 o'clock. Then Zeus went at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. It seems that he wants to get to know Kamen Rider Tokyo. But when he just approached Kamen Rider Shuing, he found that his body was out of control and could not move at all. And Kamen Rider Shuing put his hand on his head and said, "Sorry, as the king of time, I have to end this farce." Now the time in this area has been suspended by Kamen Rider Shuing. He looked at Zeus, who was standing in a sprint state in front of him, and smiled. Then he raised his fist and punched him hard. Then time resumed its flow. And Zeus fell to the ground violently. Zeus, who fell to the ground, was very stunned, and he still didn't know what happened. But the natural disaster next to him has realized the seriousness of the matter. So he immediately took Zeus into a flash of lightning and disappeared into Kamen Rider Shuang's eyes. And Kamen Rider Shuang didn't chase them either. After all, dealing with the injured was the most important thing right now. So he released his transformation and returned to the one bookstore with Rentaro and Sudume. Now on another battlefield, Kamen Rider Sacred Blade and Kamen Rider Espada quickly deal with the Sancho Fish Megiddo, just as Kamen Rider Sacred Blade was about to leave here with Kamen Rider Espada. A sick man suddenly appeared in front of him. The helpful Kamen Rider Sacred Blade didn't think about whether the man had set a trap. He quickly ran to the man, hugged him, and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" But who knows, this man is really not an ordinary person. He showed a gentle smile to Kamen Rider Sacred Blade and then said in a very sinister tone, "It's impossible to be hooked so easily, the bait might be poisonous." Later, he turned into a weirdo with horns. After absorbing the power of Kamen Rider's Holy Blade drive, the backhand is to give him a slap. The Kamen Rider Holy Blade, who fell to the ground, cancelled his transformation. And Hiba Masaru, who was released from his transformation, wanted to continue to become Kamen Rider Sacred Blade and fight against the weirdo who deceived his feelings in front of him. But it was strange to find that he couldn't pull out the holy sword in his drive no matter what. This must be the ghost of that weirdo. The monster with horns happily admired Makoto, who couldn't pull out the holy sword in his drive, and said, "If you want to draw a sword, you may need the power of the lost land. So, can't the sword be drawn?" Feiyu, who lost the ability to transform, could only return to the base of the swordsman in the North Pole with the sage. Thank you for reading this story at FictionZone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. After receiving Fei Yuzhen's holy sword drive, Dakin Temple Zhexing immediately began to study. He didn't answer Fei Yuzhen's question. Feiyu looked very anxious. He put his hand on the shoulder of Dakin Temple Zhexing and shouted loudly. Then he turned into a darkness and disappeared into Fei Yuzhen's eyes. And Dakin Temple Zhexing's expression looked very embarrassed. "No, the holy sword has been sealed. Without that power, how would I fulfill my promise?" And it was Luo Hao who just came back with Rentaro and Sudo-mei who made this sound. But next, no matter how he tossed, can't repair Feiyu's real holy sword drive. Then is there any solution? So Dakin Temple Zhexing shook his head at Fei Yuzhen and said, "The only way to unlock this seal is to go to Avalon." Hearing the words of Dakin Temple Zhexing 507, the sage said thoughtfully. After returning to the base, Fei Yuzhen handed over the drive of the holy sword to Tetsuo of Dakin Temple. Suddenly, a young man's voice told Fei Yui the answer. Luo Hao sang, "Where is Avalon?" Hearing Luo Hao's words, Fei Yuzhen showed a confused expression again. And Luo Hao just smiled and then told Fei Yu the answer he really wanted. Avalon is what Rachel calls the Lost Land. It is said that there is a great power sleeping there. If you gain that mighty power, you might be able to draw the holy sword. Hearing this, Fei Yu was really excited. He anxiously asked Uncle Luo Hao, "Then where is Luo Hao saying Avalon?" No one knew where that Avalon was, a place not even a swordsman could go. But it was Dakin Temple Zhexing who answered his question. Hearing Dao Dakin to see Zhexing's words, Fei Yuzhen fell into silence. He was starting to get lost. He even began to wonder if he was worthy of the power of Kamen Rider Saint, whether or not he is qualified to fulfill his promise. And Fei Yu really changed in his heart. Luo Hao naturally looked at the house. He slowly walked to Fei Yuzhen's side, patted his shoulder, and said, "Of course there is a way, but it requires a huge effort on your part. Even so, are you going to find Avalon?" Hearing Luo Hao's words, Fei Yu's eyes lit up. He gave Luo Hao a fierce nod and said, "In order to fulfill the promise I made, even if I go through fire and water, I will not hesitate." Seeing Fei Yuzhen's firm belief, Luo Hao smiled knowingly. Then he snapped his fingers. Three mysterious bookshelves appeared out of thin air in Fei Yuzhen's eyes, and Fei Yuzhen looked at these three mysterious bookshelves and sighed with sincerity. It's amazing. Then Luo Hao took out a few books he wanted from it and handed them to Fei Yuzhen. The answer you want is here, and it's up to you whether you can find it or not. And Dakin Temple Zhexing looked at everything in front of him in a stunned manner. He pointed at Luo Hao and said incredulously, "How do you know the forbidden book about Avalon is here?" Hearing this, Luo Hao smiled and did not answer Zhexing of Dakin Temple. Instead, he turned his head and explained to Fei Yuzhen, but he knew most of the secrets that only swordsmen of his rank knew. Once there was a mighty force that no one could drive. Avalon is where that power is sealed. Good luck, Fei Yuzhen. Now the bait has been cast. Whether you can get the power you want is up to you, Wang Jian. Hearing this, Wang Jian just asked Rachel coldly. Fei Yuzhen looked at the books in her hand and fell into contemplation. After hearing Luo Hao's words, Zhexing of Dakin Temple was obviously stupid. Rachel, who had just sealed Fei Yu's true power, said thoughtfully to Wang Jian, who was standing beside him, "So who the hell is this guy?" "A guy named Luo Hao, obviously not a swordsman." Without any hesitation, Rachel gave the answer Wang Jian wanted. And at this moment, in a brightly decorated room, there was also an unpleasant atmosphere in San Li's Zhao. Cracks in time, eh? Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Thinking of this, Dakin Si Zhexing felt that his head began to hurt. The first door is after Luo Hao left. Fei Yuzhen quickly, and Dakin Si Zhexing looked through the forbidden books that Luo Hao gave them. It didn't take long for Fei Yuzhen and the others to find their answer in one of the forbidden books. Connecting 13 stories with a sword, this is Fei Yuzhen pointed to the contents of the forbidden book and said intermittently. Judging from the expression on Fei Yuzhen's face, he now knows the answer to the question. So Fei Yuzhen quickly ran out of the base and came to his bookstore. After so many hours in the bookstore, Fei Yuzhen finally found a way to go to Avalon. And Dakin Temple Zhexing also came to the bookstore. He looked at Fei Yuzhen, who had been busy all day, smiled slightly and said, "Fei Yuzhen, you must go to Avalon." Afterwards, Fei Yu and Dakin Temple Zhexing returned to the base in the North Pole. So everyone was there except Rentaro. So Fei Yu was really curious and asked Luo Hao, who was standing next to him. Luo Hao sang, "Taro Lun, where did he go?" Luo Hao sighed and told Fei Yu the cause and effect. After Rentaro was defeated by Megiddo's people he felt unwilling. He went to the release training ground alone for training. Is the release training ground the place to improve your strength? Hearing Fei Yu's real question, the others fell into silence and were speechless. And Luo Hao patted Fei Yuzhen on the shoulder and explained to him, "The flow rate of time in the demonstration training ground is different from the outside world. Therefore, the body will bear several times the burden during cultivation." Hearing Luo Hao's words, Dakin Temple Zhexing also added a sentence. "In the worst case, life is at risk." Hearing the explanations of the two people, Fei Yu real person was dumbfounded. Rentaro knows that, but... Seeing Fei Yu's real reaction, Luo Hao scratched his hair with his hand and said with a bit of trouble, "No way, this guy wants to take revenge on his master too much." But just like the cadres of Megiddo said, he is very weak. With the present, he may not even be able to touch the fingers of the cadres of Megiddo. After hearing Luo Hao's words, Fei Yuzhen's eyes revealed a light for some reason. He looked at everyone in the base and said in a firm tone, "Everyone, I will definitely go to Avalon to find that powerful force. I must complete the agreement with everyone." Hearing Fei Yuzhen's words, the regretful expressions on everyone's faces turned into happiness. However, Luo Hao was not very happy about it. After all, it is useless to have confidence alone, you must have a strong strength. He believed that Megiddo could not just watch Fei Yuzhen go to Avalon and take that powerful force for himself. The cunning Megiddo must have been eyeing that power. And if they are unlucky, maybe Megiddo has gone to Avalon to snatch Avalon's power from them. There is not much time left for them now, they must get Avalon's power in front of Megiddo. So he said to Fei Yuzhen in front of him, "It's not too late, let's go, Fei Yuzhen." Hearing Luo Hao's words, Fei Yu pointed at Luo Hao in confusion. "US?" Luo Hao nodded, then explained to Fei Yuzhen, "Megiddo will definitely go to Avalon too, it's too dangerous to be alone." Then Fei Yuzhen took out those forbidden books and opened them to the page Fei Yu really needed. Zhexing of Dakin Temple pointed at the forbidden books and said, "Is the way to Avalon right here?" Fei Yu really nodded and said, "That's right." Then propping his head with his hands, he thoughtfully said to everyone, "When the world explained, the dazzling light merged with the two dragons. Show the way in the ravines of the world." In the gap of time, the king fell asleep. These are the chapters of the Book of Heritage. Then when you connect the 13 stories with a sword, you can reach the gap in the world. Hearing Fei use real explanation, Luo Hao smiled knowingly. The gap in the world, the gap in time, the gap in the world. Actually, they all refer to the same place. Therefore, the so-called Avalon should be a different dimensional world. The words of Luo Hao and Fei Yuzhen obviously made Zhexing of Dakin Temple a little confused. He tilted his head and repeated the words Luo Hao just said. Different dimension. Seeing the reaction of Dakin Temple Zhexing, Fei Yu really smiled and explained to him, "What Luo Hao Sang said just now is right, but the most important thing is this sentence. In the gap of time, the king fell asleep." After King Arthur realized death, the island he went to was called Avalon. In other words, there is Avalon in the world of different dimensions. Hearing Fei Yuzhen's explanation, the sage thought thoughtfully. Right. After a simple reply, Luo Hao patted the sage's shoulder and said, "Next, Avalon's door is up to you to open." So the sage became Kamen Rider Espada, and according to Luo Hao's request, he swung the sword in his hand. It didn't take long for the gate of the base to open, and the direction the gate led to was Avalon. The journey is smooth. Fei Yuzhen and Luo Hao. Everyone in the base waved to Fei Yu and Luo Hao and said goodbye to them. Goodbye. After a simple farewell, Fei Yuzhen and Luo Hao walked into Avalon. Luo Hao and the others came to Avalon not long after. The ground they were standing on now was a desert without any plants, but a familiar friend has been waiting for them here for a long time. This person is Wang Jian. Luo Hao gestured to Fei Yuzhen and told him to hurry to find Avalon. Ask for flowers. And Fei Yuzhen nodded and summoned the motorcycle with the fantasy drive book. Then he left here on a motorcycle. And Wang Jian looked at Luo Hao in front of him and sneered, "I didn't expect you to come here." Then a huge clock appeared behind Luo Hao. Hearing this, Luo Hao smiled and said, "Transform." Under the familiar sound, Luo Hao became the king of Kamen Rider. Deficit. I must get the Dragon of Courage back. Then, a Time King First Order dial was hung on the space-time drive. 0. However, even you can't stop me from moving forward. Hearing Wang Jian's words, Luo Hao smiled, then took out his space-time drive and said, after that, the hands on the clock moved rapidly. After shouting aloud, Luo Hao rotated the space-time drive 360 degrees. A bunch of watch straps wrapped Luo Hao. Let's get past my point first. RIDERTIME Rider time. After all, Luo Hao put the space-time drive on his waist. Aren't you the same? Kamen Rider Z10, King of Time. Wang Jian looked at the masked Shi Wang in front of him and said, I know you're strong. But as long as I show 100% of my strength, you are not necessarily my opponent. Kamen Rider Shi Wang smiled and said to the king's sword in front of him, it depends on your next performance. After all, Kamen Rider Shio took out his sword. Then he raised his sword and slashed at Wang Jian. And Wang Jian also quickly reacted. He 510 raised his sword and resisted Kamen Rider Shi Wang's attack. When Kamen Rider was unprepared, Wang attacked him and swept his sword towards Wang Jian's abdomen. When Kamen Rider, Wang's attack speed was very fast, and Wang Jian dodged before it was too late. Wang Yijian when he ate Kamen Rider. Then a spark flashed. Wang Jian fell to the ground. Wang Jian, who fell to the ground, looked at Kamen Rider Tokyo in front of him and said, sure enough, you are still very strong. Hearing this, Kamen Rider Shi Wang smiled slightly. It's not that I'm too strong, it's that you're too weak. It's really rude to speak. Then Wang Jian stood up from the ground. He placed a black magic drive book on his sword. Then in a cold tone, he said to Kamen Rider Tokyo, hope you can catch my next attack, make this boring game a little fun. After saying that, Wang Jian pressed the button on the hilt. Must book guide. JAAKUDRAGUN Evil Dragon, said Wang Jian raised his sword. A black bolt of lightning suddenly appeared on his sword. Next, Wang Jian slashed the sword in Kamen Rider Shi Wang's direction. The sword energy from Wang Jian's sword turned into a black dragon and attacked Kamen Rider Tokyo, even in the face of such a powerful blow. Kamen Rider Shi Wang's face was light, as if the attack was nothing to him at all. After all, he is the king of time. It is easy to deal with a character like Wang Jian. Suddenly, the dragon that was going to rush towards Kamen Rider Shi Wang stopped, then disappeared, and Wang Jian also stopped moving. It was as if time had stopped flowing around him. And that's exactly what happened. Kamen Rider Shi Wang used Shi Stop again, then he slowly walked in front of Wang Jian and punched him hard in the abdomen, only heard a pop. Time resumed its flow. After Wang Jian disappeared, Kamen Rider Shi Wang released his transformation and turned back to Luo Hao. It doesn't matter, we will meet again sooner or later. He simply mocked Wang Jian. Wang Jian fell to the ground again. How could a guy who only grinds his lips have the strength to defeat me, the king of Kamen Rider? It seems that Avalon's power is unavailable today. Luo Hao looked at the vast and boundless desert in front of him and said to himself with some worry. The ground also gave a big hole. It's not that I'm too strong, it's that you're too weak. Speaking of which, Fei Yuzhen can't get the power of Avalon. You are obviously not a swordsman, but why are you so powerful? And next time we meet, I will attach the shame of my failure to you. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. After saying that, Wang Jian turned into -2.6 lightning bolts and disappeared in front of Kamen Rider Shuang. Wang Jian looked at the Kamen Rider Shuang in front of him and smiled. And Kamen Rider Shuang just smiled slightly and then repeated what he said. Wang Jian looked at the Kamen Rider Shuang in front of him and couldn't help but sigh. At this time, Fei Yuzhen had already found the gate of the lost land. He went in. It was then discovered that this lost place turned out to be an all-white space. There are no objects here. Mahito is the only one here. He looked back and forth at Avalon and said with emotion, "Is this Avalon? There's nothing." Suddenly a strange voice could not reach his ears. "If you don't think so, then no. If you think there is, then there is." Fei Yu really turned around. A mysterious man in a white robe appeared in front of him. The mysterious man looked at Fei Yuzhen in front of him and said to him in a serious tone, "Don't look for any great power." The words of the mysterious man made Fei Yu really angry. He vehemently retorted, "But I need that power." And the mysterious man just replied expressionlessly, "Don't look for it, don't look for it, don't look for it. A powerful force will confuse you. A mighty force will devour you and make you forget who you are. But I want to save the world, I want to protect the people I want to protect. So I have to restore the sword, I have to pull it out." Then he turned into Kamen Rider Sacred Blade and fought those guys named Megiddo. However, the mysterious man ignored the angry Fei Yuzhen. Instead, he kept repeating what he said. "Don't look, don't look, don't look." Fei Yuzhen, who lost her mind, left the god's side. He ran aimlessly just to find the power that could turn him into a Kamen Rider. But no matter how he looked, he couldn't find it. Luo Hao outside the Lost Land also noticed that Fei Yu was really confused. He grabbed his hair with his hands and showed a look that really couldn't help this guy. Then, using the telepathy unique to Kamen Riders, he said to Hiba Mako, "Fei Yuzhen, remember, if you think you have it, and if you think you don't have it, you don't have it." Luo Hao's words made Fei Yu really realize. He stopped and started to think about the sentence, "I think if there is, then there is." So he closed his eyes and began to think about the location of Avalon's power. There. Fei Yu really felt a force wandering around him, so he reached out and grabbed that power. Fei Yu really opened his eyes and a magical drive book appeared in his eyes. Kingufrthur, King Arthur. Luo Hao outside the Lost Land stretched and said with some relief. He held the hilt in his hand, so Fei Yu really simply pulled out the sword from the drive. Will it recognize you? It depends on the next trial. However, Fei Yuzhen thought that he had to fulfill the promise he made. It seems that this is the so-called trial. The body was shaking uncontrollably. A glowing monster was charging towards him. He is hesitating. The stone in my heart still fell to the ground. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. The mysterious man appeared behind him and said to him, suddenly Fei Yuzhen found that the space around him had changed. What if I still fail to draw the sword this time? He came to a place where he had never been before. But when Fei Yu was really shocked by this power, Fei Yuzhen put 2 magic drive books on the drive. It seems that Fei Yuzhen has finally defeated himself. The King of Knights waved his hand and chopped down the sword that punishes evil and promotes good. The fire draws the sword, transform. Flying feathers pulled the holy sword out of the drive, then he kept swinging the holy sword. Blazing flames spewed out from the sword in Makoto Feather's hand. When the 2 books overlap, the power resides in the sacred sword. WNDRIDER Fantastic Rider, DRAGUNRTHUROU Dragon King Arthur. After the crisp sound is over, flying feathers became Kamen Rider Sacred Blade. However, unlike the previous Kamen Rider Sacred Blade, at this time the left side of the Kamen Rider Holy Blade turned blue. And he also has a blue giant sword more than before. And it was also caused by the power of that magical drive book. The monster whose body glowed with light kept shooting light bullets at him. Kamen Rider Sacred Blade swung his sword, constantly shooting down his light bullets. Then the 2 swords in Kamen Rider Holy Blade's hand emitted a strong light. Read it to kill. The king is back. Kamen Rider Sacred Blade swung the sword vigorously at the monster that glowed in life. A huge sword energy flew out from the sword of Kamen Rider Holy Blade, completely hit the monster that glowed all over the body. Just hear a bang. The glowing monster was defeated by Kamen Rider Saint. After defeating the glowing monster, Kamen Rider's sacred blade was released from his transformation, and he returned to Heba Shin. Fei Yuzhen held the blue fantasy drive book in his hand. He remembered what the mysterious man said to him. Will it recognize you? It's up to the next trial. Fei Yu really? Suddenly, Luo Hao appeared in front of Fei Yuzhen and called his name. Fei Yuzhen looked at Luo Hao in front of him and said meaningfully. Luo Hao sang, I can already use the power of King Arthur. Hearing this, Luo Hao just replied coldly. You haven't used his full power yet, as the mysterious man said. Can you unleash his full power? Depends on the next trial. Hearing Luo Hao's words, Fei Yu was really surprised and he couldn't help but sigh. Luo Hao sang, you are really powerful. The conversation I had with that guy made it clear to you. This is not the time to discuss this. What's wrong? While we're away, Megiddo's doing things again. We have to hurry. After that, Fei Yuzhen and Luo Hao left the lost land, back to the base of the swordsman, in order to save the passerby who was almost killed by Medusa the uncle. However, everyone who was surprised to find that they were a little dejected. Megiddo sent the 3 Medusa sisters to do things. All the people came back except Xiaokong's father Ryo Agami. Luo Hao patted Xiaokong's head and said, turned into stone by Medusa, completely different from his usual. While leads, they went to find Avalon's power, so the sages and the others had no choice but to return to the base, just like Luo Hao thought. And Luo Hao had already discovered something was wrong, after knowing all the facts. Fei Yuzhen, who was somewhat puzzled, secretly asked Xianren what was wrong. When Fei Yuzhen and Luo Hao returned to the base, especially Ao Ryo's son, Xiaokong, looks like he's not full of energy. Trust me, I will definitely bring your father back. And because Megiddo's cadres were also present, Xiaokong looked at Luo Hao in disbelief and asked, can you really save my father? Obviously those big brothers can't do it. Hearing this, Luo Hao smiled slightly and said, who do you think I am? I am the king of Kamen Rider. Fei Yuzhen also came over, patted Xiaokong's head and said, I will definitely take your father. This is the promise I made with you. The words of Luo Hao and Fei Yuzhen made Xiaokong return to his happy expression. He nodded to Fei Yuzhen and Luo Hao and said, then you must bring my father back, 2 big brothers. After saying that, Fei Yu really smiled and replied, well, after all, this is our agreement 510 and I will definitely realize it. Let's go. Fei Yu really has everyone, Luo Hao said to everyone in the base. After everyone replied in unison, they left the base and moved towards Medusa's position. Everyone is here now. Megiddo's cadres and Rachel have been waiting here for Fei Yuzhen for a long time. We're on. Fei Yu Zhengxian is right, and Rentaro Jai Dalian shouted, transform. So they turned into Kamen Riders and charged towards the enemy in front of them. Kamen Rider's sacred blade and Kamen Rider sword fight against Megiddo's cadre Rachel. Kamen Rider blades and Kamen Rider Espada fought against Medusa in front of them. Medusa looked at Kamen Rider blades in front of her and said, I just killed your sister, I want to avenge her. Hearing this, Kamen Rider blades replied indifferently. Then it depends on whether you have that ability. Just after they fought for a while, an unexpected figure appeared in front of Kamen Rider Sacred Blade. This person is Wang Jian. At the same time, one of the 3 Medusa sisters also came. Like Fei Yuzhen's plan, it seems that all the big fish have taken the bait. Wang Jian looked at the Kamen Rider Holy Blade in front of him and said, quick, give me back the Dragon of Courage. Seeing that Wang Jian repeated "abk" again, he did not know how many times he had said it. Kamen Rider Sacred Blade said while fighting Rachel, the end of the story is written by us and the one who fights with you is not me but him. Who? Although Wang Jian asked so, he already knew exactly who that person was. That's right, the next person to fight him is Luo Hao, who is silent in front of him. Seeing the prey throw itself into the net, Luo Hao put the spacetime drive on his waist. Kamen Rider Z1, a one-time king second order. After all, Luo Hao rotated the spacetime drive 360 degrees. A bunch of watch straps wrapped Luo Hao, and he is the second-order king of Kamen Rider. After that, the hands on the clock moved rapidly. What a powerful force. Then 2 huge clocks appeared behind Luo Hao. RIDRTIME Rider time, he couldn't help but sighed. Not long after, a black and white knight appeared in Wang Jian's eyes. This time, use this against you. Thank you for reading this story at FictionZone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Wang Jian looked at the Kamen Rider Shi Wang Erji in surprise. ZJ0, after the sound effect ended, Luo Hao hung it on the spacetime drive. Time drive, transform. The people around also stopped fighting. Because they were all frightened by the aura that Wang Erji exudes when Kamen Rider. They had never felt so powerful. This new form of Kamen Rider Shiwang can be regarded as giving them a lot of insight. When Kamen Rider Wang Erji walked in front of Wang Jian, he said, "Can you really beat me, Wang Jian?" although Wang Jian felt the strong aura of the other party but still did not back down. He looked at the Kamen rider Shuang Erji in front of him and said, "If you don't fight, how can you be sure whether your strength is a paper tiger?" So, Wang Jian raised his sword and slashed at Kamen rider Shuang Erji. Wang Jian's sword made a plain sound in the air. Seeing this, Kamen rider Shuang Erji took out his time limit sword to block Wang Jian's attack, only heard a clatter. There was a spark from the swords of the two knights. Then Wang Jian retracted his sword. Then he hit Kamen rider Shuang Erji with a double chop. But no surprise, he was completely blocked by Kamen rider Shuang's second order. After blocking Wang Jian's attack, when Kamen rider Wang Erji took a step back. Wang Jian looked at the Kamen rider Shuang Erji in front of him with some boredom and said, "Why don't you stop when you don't need it, Kamen rider Toki King?" Hearing this, Kamen rider Shuang Erji smiled and said, "If you still use this trick, it will be boring." Hearing this, Wang Jian smiled lightly, "Then I have to force you to do this trick." After saying that, Wang Jian raised his sword and charged towards Kamen rider Shuang Erji. And the bottom of his foot also gave a big hole. He looked at Wang Jian, who was rushing towards him at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. Kamen rider Shio Nikai raised his time limit sword. The king of time is the strongest and domineering. When I saw Kamen rider, Wang Erji slashed hard at the afterimage of Wang Jian at an extremely exaggerated speed. When Kamen rider, the sword gas from the second rank king's sword turned into a huge clock and slashed at the king's sword. Only heard a bang. Wang Jian fell to the ground and lightning flashed from his body. This also proves that Kamen rider's second order blow inflicted great damage to him. At this time, the two of the three Medusa sisters have been eliminated by the Kamen rider Sacred Blade, who has acquired the power of King Arthur. When Rachel saw that something was wrong, she disappeared immediately. It seems that Wang Jian really lost this time. Wang Jian looked at the Kamen rider Shuang Erji in front of him and said, "I didn't expect that. I'm still too weak, Kamen rider Shuang." Hearing this, Luo Hao smiled bitterly and said, "0." After saying that, Wang Jian turned into a flash of lightning and disappeared into Kamen rider Shuang's eyes. Then Luo Hao clicked on the second order table of Shuang. "Then let's meet again next time." He couldn't help but sighed. Luo Hao walked to the side of Ryo's tail, which had turned into a stone statue, and took out the Shuang second order table. During Kamen rider, Wang Erji released his transformation and changed back to Luo Hao. And Luo Hao and Fei Yuzhen also completed the agreement with Xia Akang. After finishing the mission, Luo Hao and the others opened the door and returned to the base. There is none left. For some reason, Agami Ryo changed back to his original form. Fei Yu was really surprised to see the light on the tail that was suddenly alive in front of him, changed back from the state of the stone statue. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. What's going on? Why is Uncle Ryo Agami back to his original state? Okay, let's go back. Aren't you happy that he's back to normal? Feather felt relieved by the recovery of Ryo Agami after this thrilling battle. Fei Yu was really scared. What if Mr. Ryo Agami doesn't change back? The powerful ability of the second order watch is self-evident at the same time. This F***CK is really a god watch. The few people who returned to the base breathed a sigh of relief, and they could be considered to have come back alive. Luo Hao didn't seem to have recovered from the battle just now. He opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling in a daze. "Uncle, are you all right?" Fei Yu asked with genuine concern. "I'm fine," the uncle muttered. Uncle has always been a strong May 10 person. Luo Hao regained his composure, turned his head to look at Fei Yuzhen and his uncle. Fei Yuzhen looked at the uncle with a look of fear. The uncle seemed impatient and rolled his eyes. "You guys are back." Sudumei's eyes almost popped out, shouting and rushing over. Yi hugged Fei Yuzhen and was happy for his safe return. Fei Yu smiled wryly and gently touched Yi's head. Luo Hao looked at the scene in front of him and suddenly felt like he had eaten several tons of lemons, and his stomach was sour for a while. He turned his head and stopped watching this scene. Yi's shouting and shouting echoed in the base, and the tense and exciting battle just now seemed to be no longer scary. "Hey, you can shut up now," Luo Hao said seriously. Yi turned her head and looked unhappy. "Why are you killing me? The war in the Otherworld is still going on for a long time. If today's battle wasn't for Shuang's second-order table, I'm afraid Uncle Agami is now a cold stone." Fei Yuzhen came back to her senses and said gratefully, "I will keep going to save more people. I swear that I will never live with all the guys who use books to hurt others." Fei Yuzhen suddenly shouted. Yi seemed to have been spanked, jumping around the crowd, shouting, "Everyone is the best." The night outside gradually became dark and cool. After saying goodbye to each other, everyone went back to their respective homes. Luo Hao twisted his neck a few times. Taste. Oh, comfortable. Luo Hao walked into a Japanese noodle restaurant and ordered a bowl of tonkatsu ramen. The owner, Heffa's youthful face and spirited, felt unusual when he saw this guest. The interior of the store is simple, and there are only about 10 seats and 6 bar chairs in the small store. There is also a table with various Japanese appetizers and napkins on it. Maybe it was getting late, and there was only one customer left in the shop. Luo Hao. What a rare moment of relaxation. Luo Hao felt very satisfied after eating the hot ramen. After an unknown amount of time, Luo Hao was already lying on the bed, looking at the Shiwang watch in his hand, and gradually fell asleep. The next day, Luo Hao was awakened by a sudden knock on the door. Luo Hao shivered and threw his head from the bed to the ground. God, who is? Luo Hao thought that tens of thousands of grass and mud horses had passed by, and when he looked at his watch, it was only 7 o'clock in the morning. Luo Hao opened the door impatiently, and Fei Yuzhen's big faceplate was posted at once. Brother Ho, Luo Hao was terrified. What's wrong with this kid? Luo Hao murmured in his heart. Suddenly, a huge color book appeared in the sky, and it smashed to the ground with a bang. The sky turned into a colorful black, the book spread out like a phantom, and the provoked wind and waves sent flying. Yu Zhen suddenly overturned to the ground zero. At the same time, Luo Hao was pressed tightly to the ground. Luo Hao felt unhappy for a while. How did these grandchildren come again so soon? 4 luminous walls were instantly formed around the book, tightly wrapping this area like a cage. Fei Yuzhen and Luo Hao quickly got up, rubbed their shoulders, and looked behind the wall of light. About 200 meters away from them, a long and ferocious man sprang out. The person who came was Sturius. He looked around with a smirk, and a sense of satisfaction welled up in his heart. A new battle is about to start again. Luo Hao and Fei Yu really quickly ran to the street and looked at Stelius in the distance with a serious look. Yeah, where's the Maodu boy? Wu Siki Zhang domineeringly complained. Let me tell you, damn ugly, Luo Hao said viciously. After that, Luo Hao quickly rotated the transforming device in his hand. Transform, RIDRTIME, rider time, 2-6. At this moment, a huge clock appeared behind Luo Hao. The hands of the clock turned rapidly, and then a massive watch strap wrapped Luo Hao. Kamen Rider Z10, King of Time, what a powerful force. Fei Yu really felt the terrifying aura. Hey. Just now, who did you say is the Maodu boy? Luo Hao asked fiercely. Fei Yu really didn't dare to show weakness under the familiar sound effects. Kamen Rider Saber, transform. I want to see you two how capable I am, Sturius said without changing his face. A new battle is about to start again. Luo Hao and Fei Yu really quickly ran to the street and looked at Stelius in the distance with a serious look. Oh, where's the Maodu boy? Wu Siki Zhang domineeringly complained. Let me tell you, damn ugly. Luo Hao said viciously. After that, Luo Hao quickly rotated the transforming device in his hand. Transform, RIDRTME, rider time. At this moment, a huge clock appeared behind Luo Hao. The hands of the clock turned rapidly, and then a massive watch strap wrapped Luo Hao. Kamen Rider Z10, King of Time, what a powerful force. Fei Yu really felt the terrifying aura. Hey, just now, who did you say is the Maodu boy? Luo Hao asked fiercely. Not to be outdone, Fei Yuzhen shouted, Kamen Rider Saber, transformation. In an instant, a blood-colored dragon wraps Hahama's whole body, and Kamen Rider Saber appears. Fei Yuzhen rushed up with a stride. The holy sword of flame in his hand began to burst into flames. He stepped forward with a horizontal slash, and Sturius turned around to dodge. Immediately after, a roundabout kick sent Fei Yu Duan flying 50 meters. That's it, Stelius scoffed. Feather really quickly got up and stepped forward to engage in a fierce battle with Stelius. Sparks one scattered like fireworks in full bloom. Boom. Luo Hao also joined the fight and stabbed Sturius in the chest with a knife. Sturius easily escaped, but when he kicked Luo Hao backwards, Luo Hao grabbed him calf. Sit down for me. After saying that, Luo Hao picked up Stelius and dragged him to the ground like a chicken. Styles instantly kissed the ground with both arms. You will die for me. Styles got angry and quickly got up and rushed towards Luo Hao. Come on. After saying that, Fei Yuzhen inserted the holy sword into the drive. The button on the hilt was pressed. Read it to kill. The fire dragon is furious. DRAGUNHEDGHOGPTRFAN Peter the Hedgehog. In an instant, a dragon and a spirit appeared around Saber. But this female elf has big biceps. Immediately afterwards, the dragon and the female elf rushed straight towards Stelius. Go to hell, Fei Yuzhen shouted. Stelius lightly swung the two blades in his hand quickly, and there was a strong wind at such a fast speed. The dragon and the elf collided with the knife edge and instantly vanished into ashes. Immediately afterwards, Stelius' eyes projected a burst of intense light. Get out of the way, close your eyes, Luo Hao shouted and rushed towards Fei Yuzhen. But it was too late. Fei Yu was really hit directly. And True Feather's eyes as if a sudden burning pain in general followed. Feathers really invisible. Ha 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 ha, how dare you say what kind of Cayman rider you are, Stelius laughed mockingly. Damn, this grandson has blinded my eyes, Fei Yuzhen cursed angrily. Suddenly the two antlers on Stelius' head suddenly became longer, instantly entwining the flying feathers. Luo Hao stepped forward and slashed on the antlers, but the energy of the horns was too strong. Luo Hao was bounced straight away and slammed into the wall behind him heavily. Luo Hao was entangled and brought to Styles. Let you taste the pain. After that, the antlers began to emit a powerful current. Feather felt relieved by the recovery of Ryo Agami after this thrilling battle. Feiyu is really scared. What should I do if Mr. Ryo Agami doesn't come back? The powerful ability of Shi Wang's second-order watch is self-evident at the same time. This F*CK is really a divine watch. The few people who returned to the base breathed a sigh of relief, and they could be considered to have come back alive. Luo Hao didn't seem to have recovered from the battle just now. He opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling in a daze. Uncle, are you all right? Fei Yu asked with genuine concern. I'm fine, the uncle muttered. Uncle has always been a strong man. Luo Hao regained his composure, turned his head to look at Fei Yuzhen and his uncle. Fei Yuzhen looked at the uncle with a look of fear. The uncle seemed impatient and rolled his eyes. You guys are back. Sudumei's eyes almost popped out, shouting and rushing over. He hugged Fei Yuzhen and was happy for his safe return. Fei Yu smiled wryly and gently touched Yi's head. Luo Hao looked at the scene in front of him and suddenly felt like he had eaten several tons of lemons, and his stomach was sour for a while. He turned his head and stopped watching this scene. Yi's shouting and shouting echoed in the base, and the tense and exciting battle just now seemed to be no longer scary. Hey, you can shut up now, Luo Hao said seriously. Yi turned her head and looked unhappy. Why are you killing me? The war in the Underworld is still going on for a long time. If today's battle wasn't for Shi Wang's second-order table, I'm afraid Uncle Agami is now a cold stone. Fei Yuzhen came back to her senses and said gratefully, I will keep going to save more people. I swear to be inseparable with all those who use books to hurt others. Fei Yuzhen suddenly shouted. He seemed to have been punched in the buttocks, bouncing around the crowd, shouting, everyone is the best. The night outside gradually became dark and cool. After saying goodbye to each other, everyone went back to their respective homes. Luo Hao twisted his neck a few times. Taste. Oh, comfortable. Luo Hao walked into a Japanese noodle restaurant and ordered a bowl of tonkatsu ramen. The owner, Heffa's youthful face and spirited, felt unusual when he saw this guest. The interior of the store is simple, and there are only about 10 seats and 6 bar chairs in the small store. There is also a table with various Japanese appetizers and napkins on it. 513. Maybe it was getting late, and there was only one customer left in the shop. Luo Hao, what a rare moment of relaxation. Luo Hao felt very satisfied after eating the hot ramen. After an unknown amount of time, Luo Hao was already lying on the bed, looking at the Shi Wang watch in his hand, and gradually fell asleep. The next day, Luo Hao was awakened by a sudden knock on the door. Luo Hao shivered and his head fell from the bed to the ground. God, who is? Luo Hao thought that tens of thousands of grass and mud horses had passed by, and when he looked at his watch, it was only 7 o'clock in the morning. Luo Hao opened the door impatiently, and Fei Yuzhen's big faceplate was posted at once. Brother Ho, Luo Hao was terrified. What's the matter with this kid? Luo Hao murmured in his heart. Suddenly, a huge color book appeared in the sky, and it smashed to the ground with a bang. The sky turned into a colorful black, the book spread out like a phantom, and the provoked wind and waves sent flying. Yu Zhen suddenly overturned to the ground. At the same time, Luo Hao was pressed tightly to the ground. Luo Hao felt unhappy for a while. How did these grandchildren come again so soon? 4 glowing walls were instantly formed around the book this week, tightly wrapping this area like a cage. Fei Yuzhen and Luo Hao quickly got up, rubbed their shoulders, and looked behind the wall of light. About 200 meters away from them. A long and vicious man came out of the room. The person who came was Sturius. He looked around with a smirk, and a sense of satisfaction welled up in his heart. Ooh, Fei Yuzhen was instantly paralyzed by the strong electric current. Stop, Luo Hao shouted loudly. The King of Time assembles, domineering slash. I saw Luo Hao's sword slashed on Stelius' shoulder like lightning, and Stelius suddenly let go of Fei Yuzhen in pain. Wow, Stelius' shoulder cracked a big hole in an instant, and hot and violent lightning came from it. Fei Yuzhen was dying on the ground, struggling to sit up. GAMOVER. After saying that, Luo Hao inserted the sword into the drive and pressed the button. Nirvana, lightning whirlwind. I saw that the sword in Luo Hao's hand began to emit bursts of infiltrating lightning, slashing towards Stelius at the speed of a double image. Stelius clenched his knives and started to attack. The swords of the two began to send out bursts of sparks, and the powerful shock wave really lifted Feiyu, who had fallen down by the side dozens of meters away. What a powerful force! Stelius murmured in his heart. Luo Hao speeded up again at this time, and his movements began to be hard to see. Stelius couldn't resist at once and was knocked out with his sword. Luo Hao saw the opportunity and quickly slashed on Stelius' chest. Hey, ah, ah. I didn't know how many knives were screaming. Luo Hao suddenly stopped what he was doing, grabbed the handle of the knife with his left and right hands, and flew off the ugly monster in front of him. Stelius put his hands around his lower abdomen and groaned in pain. Fei Yuzhen suddenly rushed forward and kicked Wu Xi's face. Immediately after riding on him, he punched Uz's head with a punch. Stelius suddenly burst out and broke free. Quickly stepped back to the wall and retrieved the two knives. What, want to run away? Fei Yuzhen shouted. Stelius touched his hot shoulder. If it weren't for the brat behind you, you would have died 8 times earlier. Having said that, Stelius turned into a puff of black smoke and disappeared in front of the two of them. Ah, damn it, Fei Yuzhen shouted. The battle just now haunted him. As soon as she walked to the door of the bookstore, Yaya started to run around yelling again. Fei Yu is really, how can you be hurt like this today? I saw Yaya stepped forward and hugged Fei Yu and asked with concern. Okay, I see. Fei Yuzhen replied, Otherworld people still waiting for us to save. Luo Hao smiled lightly and said, No, I received news from Yaya just now that she seems to have something to do with you. Am I really weak? Have I not yet harnessed the power of Kamen Rider? I will do my best to protect everything. Yaya's eyes widened. I knew Fei Yu was the most powerful, ha 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 ha. The two changed back to human form and went to Fei Yuzhen bookstore. The battle was over, and suddenly the books began to fall apart, the surrounding walls of light began to collapse, and the streets recovered. Luo Hao stepped forward and patted Fei Yuzhen on the shoulder. Cheer up, you didn't lose. If brother Fei Yuzhen hadn't exhausted that ugly stamina, I'm afraid I wouldn't have defeated him. Fei Yu really smiled bitterly. If it wasn't for Luo Hao saying, I might not have seen you today, Li Di Hao. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone, net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Luo Hao looked at the two of them, a burst of sour water in his stomach. After all, Fei Yu really stood up. This area has returned to the original world. The world needs people to protect it. Okay. Hexie's sun shines on the cold ground. This is the romantic beauty of autumn. Fei Yuzhen opened the window of her bookstore and stretched out, ready to start her day's work. Looking at the red and yellow leaves in front of the window, Fei Yu was really moved and quietly recorded it all with a pen. Hey, when are you submitting the manuscript? You started the daily reminder again today. It will be handed over this afternoon, hee hee. Fei Yu really pouted. At this moment, a little boy walked into the bookstore and ran to the side bookshelf with joy. Brother, can you find me a nice picture book? Asked the young boy Ko Fei Yuzhen. Fei Yuzhen stood up with a bright face, of course. You see, Fei Yuzhen began to introduce several fairy tale books with very beautiful covers to the little boy. Yi looked at Fei Yuzhen, who was serious, and suddenly felt warm inside. Good morning, Fei Yu is really. Luo Hao pushed open the door and entered. Ha ha ha, Luo Hao Sang is here. Fei Yuzhen hurriedly stepped forward to lead him. At this time, a back head in blue clothes appeared. Fei Yu really looked closely. It was Shindo Taro Lun. Well, how are you all, Taro? Said, any new tasks today? Luo Hao asked. Damn, today is quite peaceful and nothing major. Taro replied. After that, Shindo Rantaro said, however, today I have something to ask for Luo Hao and Fei Yuzhen brothers. I heard that Zeos was haunting an abandoned construction site recently, and I hope the two will investigate with me today. Okay, let's go. Luo Hao and Fei Yuzhen replied. Yi looked at the two of them and said with concern, you must be careful. Yes, don't worry about us, Fei Yuzhen. After all, the three of them left the bookstore and started to go to the abandoned construction site. They walked through the streets, people came and went on the streets. It seems to be extraordinarily lively today. As they approached the construction site, the three felt an inexplicable murderous aura. Ah, why do you feel so much yin here? Luo Hao said strangely. When the abandoned construction site came into view, the three couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat. This place looks like it's been ransacked by ghosts, bare reinforced concrete and some daily necessities for workers who have not had time to clean up on the ground. Suddenly, a person Ying flashed past on the 3rd floor. Chase, Taro said. The three quickly went up to the 3rd floor, but no one was found, so they went up to the 4th floor. Woo woo woo, came a cry from behind them. What's the matter, little girl? How could you have not finished telling Fei Yu's truth? a black shadow suddenly came out from behind the cabinet and slammed Fei Yuzhen in human form to the ground. "Be good to me, Tilda," the man in black, wearing a black hooded robe, said slowly. The trio turned sharply and found a strange cabinet behind them. Luo Hao and Zinteng Rentaro were instantly stunned and hurriedly stepped forward to hold the shadow of that day. "Oh my god." Taro felt, "Does this place seem like a place where Megiddo's gang exists?" Luo Hao asked in confusion. "What caught my eye was a dirty little girl." "Open," Taro said. "Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The cabinet looks very old and looks like it's been used for decades. There are all kinds of domestic garbage scattered here and there. Because it has not been cleaned for a long time, it exudes a stench." "The cry came from here," Luo Hao said. After all, a bright saber flashed out facing Fei Yuzhen's neck. "It is estimated that flies will like it here." Fei Yu really answered. The cry got louder, so Fei Yu really stepped forward. "I heard that Styrius was injured by this kid in front of him yesterday." The shadow raised his head, revealing a handsome face. Suddenly, another book appeared in the sky, and the book slowly opened, forming 4 walls of light, wrapping their area all at once. Woo! Fei Yuzhen was covered by the man's left hand and held the knife against his neck in his right hand, unable to move. The little girl also disappeared out of thin air at this time. "I didn't expect this to be an illusion," Taro said viciously. "Ha ha ha ha, you two, be honest with me. Be careful, I'll send this kid Cheng right now," the man in black threatened. Fei Yuzhen's neck was gradually pressed with a bloodstain by the knife. Luo Hao suddenly laughed. "Ha ha ha ha, you have the ability to do it." Fei Yu's face turned pale with fright. The man in black laughed wildly. Shindo Rintaro looked at Luo Hao in surprise. Taking advantage of the man in black laughing wildly, Fei Yuzhen lay on the ground and flew and kicked the man in black on the head. Luo Hao and Taro saw the opportunity and threw the man in black to the ground. The man in black was surprisingly powerful, and the two of them didn't subdue him. The man in black took a few steps back and suddenly shouted, "Rachel." In an instant, the man in black was enveloped in mist and turned into a phantom beast, Rachel. Upon seeing this, the 3 of them also took out their transforming devices. Following the familiar music, all 3 of Kamen Riders had completed their transformations. "Is it just you?" Rentaro Shindo sneered. "Where's Zio's kid?" Taro asked. "Ha ha ha, he just invited you to show up." After all, Stelius appeared behind the 3 of them. "A bunch of stinky boys," said Stelius viciously. Immediately afterwards, Wang Jian also walked out slowly. "Let's settle the old accounts together," Wang Jian said contemptuously. "Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running." Rachel suddenly began to control the surrounding things. The 3 Kamen Riders were surprised to find that the surrounding gravel began to float, large and small, round, flat, and pointed. Downstairs, Shindo Taro Lun was fighting fiercely with Wang Jian, who rushed down. The 3 of them fought extremely fiercely, and the earth shook. B*******D. Fei Yuzhen, a gentle and elegant person, could not help but burst out foul language. Luo Hao hurried over to support him. At this time, Styrius found the right moment and rushed to Shindo Rentaro downstairs. The gravel was controlled again, attacking the 3 Kamen Riders like bullets. On the other side, Rachel wielded the big sword in his hand to fight with Fei Yu. Fei Yu really felt that his power was very powerful, and he would be knocked out if he was not careful. Seeing this, Luo Hao slashed Strelius's arm with a knife, and Styrius kicked Taro away. Taro flew down from the 4th floor and fell heavily on the ground. Shi Wang stepped forward to fight with him. The swords of the 2 rubbed back and forth, and sparks splashed everywhere. Stelius took out his double blades and started to slash at Kamen Rider Tokyo at an extremely fast speed. Rachel suddenly jumped downstairs, summoned countless large and small stones and the surrounding concrete wall, and smashed at Shindo Rentaro. Suddenly, a very large rock flew out and hit Fei Yuzhen with a bullet-like speed. Fei Yu really couldn't dodge in time and was smashed to the ground all at once. Luo Hao Fei Yu really rushed downstairs, but before he could help, Shindo Rentaro was smashed to the brink of death and collapsed to the ground. Ask for flowers, the 3 of them waved their swords and began to block the gravel. At this time, Styrius suddenly rushed forward and lifted Shindo Rentaro's neck with a stride. "Long time no see, blades." The rubble hit them like bullets. After all, Taro couldn't match his 4 hands with his fists and was knocked down to the ground. "Taro brother." Fei Yu shouted excitedly. "Shi Wang is the strongest, domineering slash." Luo Hao waved the sword in his hand and charged towards the 3 of them like arrows. Sai. Kong Kong. Kamen Rider Shi Wang drew a perfect arc in the air, followed by a horizontal split. The 3 guys were repelled several dozen meters away, and Shindo Rintaro stood up with difficulty. These guys, if you don't pay attention, you will focus on attacking one person. If May 13 fights with them like this, it won't take long for everyone to be defeated. Taro gasped. After speaking, Stelius had already rushed to Fei Yuzhen's side. Fei Yu really raised his sword to meet this duh. The sparks from the duel between the two swordsmen were scattered like fireworks. Wang Jian and Rachel even rushed towards Fei Yuzhen at the same time, and piles of stones and concrete walls began to fly around. Boom, 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 meteor-like start to hit Fei Yuzhen. Luo Hao and Taro rushed forward, swung their swords as hard as they could, and began to slash frantically at the flying rubble and concrete walls. Wang Jian rushed to Taro's side in a single step, and slashed at Taro's shoulder with a sword. Taro fought back, sparks were everywhere, and the battle was always extremely fierce. Rachel took control of the stone and concrete walls, which were mixed with various discarded tools including hammers, wrenches, screwdrivers, etc. "My God, it's so lively," Luo Hao said with a wry smile. In an instant these floating things slammed into them, rumbling. The sound of the earth shaking and the mountains shaking was like a huge sneeze from Mother Earth, shaking her body frantically. The gunpowder smoke was everywhere, and the surroundings were densely covered with smoke and dust. The three big villains stood on the terrace on the third floor at some point, looking at the smoke and dust that could not be seen under their feet. The three knights had been beaten and could not see their figures. "Amazing, Rachel, ha 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 ha," Wang Jiandao, "that's it." "Ha ha ha ha," Rachel mocked, "don't let your guard down. One of them has a very powerful ability, so don't take it lightly now," Stelius said solemnly. At this time the smoke gradually dissipated and the three knights were seen lying on the ground. The body was covered with thick rubble and cracked concrete walls, and a steel bar was inserted straight into Shindo Rentero's chest. A screwdriver was also inserted into Fei Yuzhen's right palm, and it really pinned him to the ground. Luo Hao seemed to have been beaten unconscious and was lying motionless on the ground. "Hey, Fei Yu is really," Luo Hao sang, Taro said, dying. "Are we defeated?" Fei Yu murmured sincerely. Boom, boom, boom. With three muffled sounds, the three villains jumped down and looked at the three knights with contempt. Taro pulled out the steel bar that pierced his body and struggled to stand up. Seeing that, Fei Yu also pulled out the screwdriver inserted into the heart of his right hand. Okay, there are still people who can stand up," Rachel said contemptuously. "These grandchildren, I should give them some color to see." Taro roared too. "6, the ending of the story is up to me," Fei Yuzhen shouted loudly. After all, Fei Yu really inserted the sword into the drive. Nirvana, DRAGUNHEDGHOGPTR, Peter the Hedgehog. With the blessing of the sound effect, Fei Yu glared at the three people in front of him fiercely. "The fire dragon is furious." Fei Yuzhen immediately flew towards the three villains. King Kong Girl Barbie suddenly sprang out from behind the holy blade, and her body was attached to an illusory hook in the air. Then a 360-degree rotation, the hook smashed into the three villains like a bullet out of the chamber. Stelius dodged at once, and Rachel Wang Jian also began to dodge. Shindo Taro Lun also inserted the sword into the drive. Read the Nirvana, Lion Fantasia, LIONFABTSISTA, Slay, Flowing Slash. After all, Shindo Rentaro rushed towards Wang Jian and started to slash wildly. Fei Yu really found the opportunity and knocked Wang Jian's body. All of a sudden, Wang Jian was knocked back dozens of meters all of a sudden. Fire is furious. Fei Yuzhen made one perform the second Nirvana again. Immediately afterwards, the four-sided area became a gravity-free area, and the elves appeared and started to whip the three evil knights behind them with light whips tangled with needles. Rachel still wanted to control the gravel, but the stone could no longer cause harm to anyone. Immediately afterwards, Fei Yuzhen rushed towards Wang Jian. A series of slashes coupled with the whip of the elf, Wang Jian was sent flying and suddenly smashed the load-bearing wall of the abandoned construction site, and instantly the whole place collapsed. Wang Jian was buried alive in this way. Shindo Rentaro turned around and rushed to Rachel. Rachel blocked Taro's attack with his sword at once. Taro slashed Rachel again and again, and Rachel was obviously overwhelmed and began to fall into passive defense. "Be careful, Taro-kun," Fei Yuzhen suddenly shouted. "I saw Stelius antlers rushing over." Taro couldn't dodge in time, and he was entangled with 5 flowers. "Death," said Stelius contemptuously. The instant electric current began to shock Taro frantically, and Taro was paralyzed by the jet black of the electricity. Then Taro was used heavily and flew out. B**********D. Fei Yuzhen rushed to Stelius, and then the elves started a new round of attacks. I saw Fei Yuzhen plunged his sword into the ground at once, and the surrounding fire ignited in an instant. The ground cremated into a dragon-shaped flame and began to give the enemy a head-on blow. Boom, boom, boom. The two villains on the field were beaten and could not lift their heads. It seems that a lot of things happened just now. At some point, Luo Hao woke up and stood beside Fei Yuzhen. The king of time is the strongest, domineering. Luo Hao flew towards Stelius like lightning. Stelius was stunned, and before he could recover, he was slashed to the ground by Luo Hao's sword. Stelius struggled to get up. Luo Hao kicked him in the face. In an instant, Kamen Rider Shi Wang turned into lightning and began to slash back and forth frantically, so fast that he could hardly see clearly. Today's battle is extremely fierce. Taro smiled wryly, the sparks from Shi Wangjian shone like fireworks. Immediately afterwards, the three villains turned into a mass of black mist and disappeared. Three villains. Awakening to kill, Stelius fell to the ground all of a sudden. A few minutes later, Stelius and Wang Jian were beaten passively and they were slashed back and forth by Shi Wang. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. The three return to human form. The king of time is the strongest. Slash at the speed of light. Retreat, shouted Stelius. At this time, Wang Jian finally climbed out of the pile of stones. Shindo Taro Lun struggled to get up. The two who were beaten could not stand on their knees, and one was still buried in a pile of stones. Luo Hao and Fei Yu really breathed a sigh of relief and helped Rintaro Shindo, who fell to the ground. The surrounding barrier began to dissipate as the battle ended, and gradually the area returned to normal. It's time to go back, let's go, Taro said. You don't look good, are you all right? Fei Yuzhen asked Luo Hao. It's all right, just take some self-cultivation. Taro replied. When the three returned to the bookstore, Yaya looked at the three in surprise. Among them, only Luo Hao still looks normal. The other two are disgraced, as if they have just finished a war. Everyone, how are you? Yaya asked with tears in her eyes. It's okay, I can still do it. Rintaro Shindo replied with a wry smile. Thanks to Luo Hao and Fei Yuzhen for the fight just now, otherwise I would never see you again today. You must be careful. Saying that, Yaya stepped forward and hugged the three of them, and the four of them hugged each other tightly. In this battle, Shindo Rintaro was seriously injured. After the four were separated, Taro summoned the portal to the Antarctic base. Nurse, take it easy, it hurts. Fei Yuzhen yelled in the hospital. At this time, a slender-looking nurse wearing a nurse's overalls is disinfecting Fei Yuzhen's palm. Oh my god, how did it get like this? It's all pierced. The nurse said submissively. I fell while riding a bicycle and I fell and was accidentally pierced by a nail. Fei Yuzhen said in a low voice with her head lowered. Liar, the nurse raised her face. No matter what, it's impossible to pierce the palm of your hand without a particularly strong force. Fei Yuzhen was speechless for a while, unable to speak for a long time. Luo Hao was fine and returned to his rental house. Luo Hao looked at the watch in his hand and muttered to himself. How powerful is this watch? Thinking about it, Luo Hao rubbed his sore arm and fell into a drowsy sleep. On the other side, Shindo Rintaro arrived at the southern base. In this Antarctica, which does not even grow grass, it is cold and freezing and the weather is harsh year after year. Hey, I almost lost my life in this battle. Taro said in a low voice. Are you all right, Taro brother? A handsome man with a side-parted head asked. It's okay, brother Fei Dao Lion, Taro said. Damn, I didn't expect the three guys to fight with you at the same time this time. In other words, which kid saved you? Fei Dao Lion asked. Is a person named Luo Hao, the king of Kamen Rider. I have never really heard of such a person in the past. It seems that God sent us to redeem us. Fei Dao Lion said, that construction site can really be chosen. I almost let the stone controlled by Rachel die there. Taro said in a low voice. Those bastards, they are really ruthless, Fei Dao Lion murmured. This night you need to cultivate well during this time, avoid strenuous exercise. A beautiful-looking woman said, Li Dezhao radiance all over her body. Yes, Miss Sophia, Taro replied. Kamiyama Fei Yuzhen, you big idiot. How could you be like this? I thought I would never see you. At this time in Fei Yu's bookstore, Yaya angrily spoke to Fei Yu, who was at a loss on the opposite side. Feather. Oh, I almost thought I would never see you. You see, if you pierce your right hand, you won't even be able to write a manuscript. Yaya looked at Fei Yuzhen with tears in her eyes. I'll be more careful next time, Yaya, don't worry. Fei Yuzhen said apologetically, you must be safe, you can't do this anymore. Yaya pouted. You two idiots, you were beaten to pieces at a critical moment. Stelius lashed out in anger, yelling at Wang Jian and Rachel in front of him. I'm sorry, Lord Stelius. The two cried out on their knees. What is the origin of that Kamen Rider Shuang? How can there be such a powerful force? I think I almost slashed it with a few knives, Stelius said in disbelief. I also fought against him in the past. He really has unfathomable power. I simply can't have a duel with him, he is really strong. Wang Jian said 517, a little cowardly. If it weren't for the swordsmen of flames, I would have smashed them all to pieces with stones. Rachel still wanted to explain at this time. Shut up, next time you fight, take what you're saying and do it, Stellius sneered. Yes, your lord. Rachel responded, this time I want Feather to meet a familiar person. Styrius smiled wickedly. Caliber, come here, Styles yelled. Hearing only a few gusts of wind, Cayman Rider Caliber ran in front of Stelius. These days you obey my orders, you have to fight with a person, Stellius said. Yes, your lord. Ding bell bell. The alarm clock sounded. Fei Yuzhen got up to turn off the alarm clock and turned to the toilet to wash. I dreamed about that man again last night. Did he give me the power of the swordsman of flame? Fei Yu murmured sincerely. After packing up, Fei Yuzhen went to Luo Hao's house. Luo Hao, who was still sleeping, was awakened by a knock on the door. Fei Yuzhen is here again. Luo Hao rubbed his sleepy eyes and looked at the clock on the wall. It was 8:30. Luo Hao walked to the door, glanced at Maoyan, and was really startled. Sitting at the dining table, Luo Hao drank a few mouthfuls of milk, thinking about the uncle just now in his mind. After a few greetings with the uncle, Luo Hao said goodbye to the uncle. Thank you, uncle. If I have time, I will definitely go shopping. Luo Hao thanked uncle politely. Don't be so gay, big brother, Luo Hao joked. Luo Hao got up to open the door. After opening the door, Fei Yuzhen hugged Luo Hao with a bright smile on his face. Mom, who is this uncle? Luo Hao was startled. Who is this? I want to ask you how to become stronger today. Fei Yuzhen said seriously, thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone, net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. While eating bread, there was a knock on the door. Luo Hao was at a loss for words. Luo Hao pushed it away. Luo Hao sang, I'm here to find you. Fei Yuzhen shouted Luo Hao from outside the door. Luo Hao was no longer sleepy, so he got up and went to the bathroom to wash up. Oh, where are we going, haha? Fei Yuzhen said with a smile. Luo Hao plugged in the anti-theft chain and slowly opened the door. How do you feel? It's strange that this uncle has seen it before. Luo Hao said to himself. After washing up, Luo Hao went to the refrigerator to get a carton of milk and a piece of whole wheat bread. Young man, let's find out about the new grocery store nearby. The uncle smiled kindly and introduced his grocery store to Luo Hao. I don't know how to answer you. In short, I think you should fight a few more times and you will become stronger and stronger. Luo Hao scratched his head and said, it seems that I'm still not mature enough. Fei Yuzhen said with a naive smile, I haven't had breakfast yet, does Haeseng have anything to eat? Fei Yuzhen looked at the bread in Luo Hao's hand and swallowed. One more point. Luo Hao turned around and went to the refrigerator to get another carton of milk and whole wheat bread. Thank you, hahaha. Fei Yuzhen started to smirk again. After the two of them had breakfast, Luo Hao touched his chin. Recently my food storage at home is low and the daily necessities are not complete enough. I want to go out and buy some. I'll accompany you to buy it, Haeseng. Fei Yuzhen's eyes flashed. After speaking, the two set off and walked out the door. Lock the door, Luo Hao said. This morning, an uncle recommended to me a grocery store he recently opened on the corner of the street. Let's go there and have a look. After speaking, Luo Hao took out the coupon that the uncle brought him when he was chatting with the uncle from his trousers pocket. Okay, let's go, Fei Yuzhen replied. The two strode towards Riffin Road, which is the location of the shop that the uncle said. The two walked and chatted. Brother Luo Hao, if it weren't for you, I think brothers Taro and I would have been killed by those three guys long ago. Fei Yu seemed to have not forgotten the ridicule that Styrius made to him and Taro that day. Don't think so, everyone will become stronger, that guy is just destroying you psychologically. Luo Hao persuaded Fei Yuzhen. After arriving at the grocery store, Luo Hao fell in love. There is no grocery store in front of you, there is only an open space, and some construction waste that has not been cleaned up is scattered on the open space. Uncle is talking about this place, Luo Hao murmured in his heart. Could it be that you heard it wrong? Fei Yuzhen asked strangely. At this time, another book appeared in the sky, and as the book opened, a colorful glowing wall rose up around this area, tightly enclosing the two of them inside. No, we've been tricked. Luo Hao said seriously. Ha 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 ha. A sinister smile came, a purple evil knight stepped aside. Somebody really believes in a grocery store, said the knight. Who are you? Luo Hao asked. Ask for flowers. After that, the sword in Caliber's hand began to gather black energy. Kamiyama, Fei Yuzhen, this time do I still want to participate in the battle? Get ready for justice, Fei Yuzhen shouted. A lunge rushed forward. Shenshin Fei Yu really saw that the momentum was not right and blocked with a backhand. The two swords rubbed together with sparks. Transformation, Kamen Rider Saber. After all, he took out his driver along with the familiar sound effects. Caliber stepped forward with a sword and slashed Fei Yuzhen's sword at once. Luo Hao hesitated for a moment, then ran to the far wall of the clearing and sat there watching the battle between the two. A flash of learning, a red dragon wrapped around Fei Yuzhen's whole body. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. Luo Hao stood aside, watching the two fight. I'm Kamen Rider Caliber and I'm here to take your two lives. The evil knight said arrogantly, must kill Reed. The two started slashing at each other. Come, I will meet you, Shenshin Fei Yuzhen shouted. You're ready to die, Caliber shouted. Feather is fighting Caliber like crazy. The sparks from the two-man battle splattered everywhere and the back-and-forth battle pulled, causing the surrounding dust to fly up. Tweet, it's quite powerful. Caliber shouted another slash. Fei Yu caught this move beautifully and turned around and kicked Caliber's left chest. Caliber took a few steps back in pain and stepped forward with a series of crazy May 17 back-and-forth slashes. I will definitely defeat you this guy today, Fei Yuzhen shouted. Don't talk too much, hahaha, Caliber scoffed. In the midst of a heated battle, Stelius appeared and stood in the distance. It's time, hahaha, Stelius rushed to the battle arena. Caliber, Styles yelled. Caliber turned to look behind him and was cut to the ground by Makoto seized the opportunity. Ming, it's a lot of fun, Stelius joked. Why are you here? Caliber got up and ran to Stelius. Do you want more people to bully less people? Fei Yuzhen mocked. No, 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 Stelius responded. Caliber removes knight status. Caliber did as he did, reverting to his human state. Fei Yuzhen glanced at Caliber, who had returned to human form in front of him. A mouthful of blood almost spurted out of his mouth. Isn't he the former swordsman of flames who saved him 15 years ago? Fei Yuzhen's brain began to run rapidly, and the scenes in the dream flashed back in front of him. Fei is really hard to fall. It's time to clean up the mess, these Zin things. Luo Hao jumped off the fence and took out the watch and driver in his pocket. Luo Hao rotates the drive in his hand 360 degrees. Kamen Rider Z10, transform, RIDRTME. A huge clock appeared around Luo Hao and bursts of shining light also enveloped Kamen Rider Shuang. Woo-woo, Kamaju looked at Luo Hao and smiled. Kamen Rider Toki King, it is said that one person defeated many knights. Stop talking nonsense, Shuang mocked. I'll meet you. Stelius took advantage of the fire and rushed towards Fei Yuzhen, who was unsuspecting. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. Death to kill. Kamaju Daichai also completed his transformation and began to fight with him. Caliber flew 200 meters away and fell heavily on the ground. At this time, Fei Yu was really in a lot of pain and was sitting on the ground at a loss, shaking his head vigorously. Read it to kill. After Luo Hao fought Caliber for a few rounds, Caliber was out of breath, while Shuang, who was facing him, was standing like a nobody. Boom! The king of Toki's sword flew at Caliber, who couldn't move. After all, Shuang inserted the sword into the drive. Immediately, Shuang rushed forward to zero. In an instant, several large bells appeared in the surrounding area and they began to attack Caliber with a deafening channel. Go to hell, go to die, Stelius hit Fei Yuzhen with madness. It's time to end the fight. Shuang clenched the 2-6 middle sword in his hand and rushed forward with a lunge, as fast as lightning. Luo Hao turned his head and looked coldly at Stelius in the distance. Fei Yuzhen's mind was completely disrupted at this time and she was completely unable to parry the next battle. Been passively beaten. Hey, stop for me, Shuang said coldly. Stelius's heart was full of lights, turned around and looked at Luo Hao. Stelius stepped forward to fight with King Shi. King Shi and him fought fiercely, and the two of you could cut each other with one sword and one sword. How on earth did you have such a powerful force? What kind of monster are you? Stelius roared angrily. I'm here to punish wicked people like you, Shuang responded indifferently. You die for me? Finished. Stelius double sword one is another slash. When King Shi found a flaw, he slashed upwards and slashed his double knives into the air. Seeing that he had no chance of winning, Stelius turned into a puff of black smoke and fled. Kamaju came out dragging his injured body, and when he saw a few people approaching in the distance, he immediately followed Stelius. Come on, Luo Hao scolded angrily. Mao Fei. Are you okay? This is the arrival of Shindo Rentaro and the sage of Fujiya Palace, and they rushed towards Ma Fi, who was beaten and bruised all over. Fei Yuzhen seemed to be completely unable to believe all of this. The person who fought with him just now was Kamaju, the former swordsman of flames who saved him that year. He stared blankly ahead and stood up at a loss. What happened? Fei Yuzhen, the sage of Fujiya Palace asked Fei Yuzhen anxiously. Fei Yuzhen was unable to speak for a long time, then fainted to the ground. Come on, I'll carry him back to the bookstore. Luo Hao walked over and put Fei Yuzhen on his back. What a lot of strength. Xian Ren murmured as he looked at Luo Hao in front of him. The three walked back to the bookstore. Luo Hao put Fei Yuzhen on the bed. Yi rushed out, looked at Fei Yuzhen who was in a coma and asked anxiously, "Is Fei Yu all right? What's wrong with him? Why is he like this?" "He's fine, he's just a little stimulated and he'll wake up soon." Luo Hao responded. The two sitting beside them immediately sat up and looked at Fei Yuzhen. "Harm this." The sage was at a loss for words. "Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. I have already investigated." Luo Hao suddenly walked in. Fei Yu really felt like she had overturned the chai, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and tea in the kitchen, and she couldn't express her feelings at once. "Today, when I went to find you, I saw my father scarred and ran away with Stelius." The sage said silently, "No." After speaking, Luo Hao walked out of the bookstore. Shenshin Fei Yuzhen didn't wake up until the afternoon, and Xianren and Ye, who were sitting on the side, also began to fall asleep. Ma Fei. Shindo Rentaro walked into the room with a lunch box. "Is he going to be all right?" Ye asked sadly. Everyone looked at him in surprise. "The person who is fighting with you today is my father," the sage said. The remaining three people looked after the unconscious Kamiya Fei Yuzhen. "Is it my illusion?" The scene he saw just now shocked him. He never thought that the person who fought with him was the one who protected him in his dream. Then, why did he stand on the side of Stelius? Fei Yu said with a sad face, "I remember that the uncle seems to be somewhat similar to the boy named Xianren just now." Luo Hao thought to himself. "In that year, your father, Fugger Palace Huxia, betrayed the organization, and Kamiju Daddy had doubts about the Sword of Truth. For this reason, he did not hesitate to give up his identity as a swordsman of flames and joined forces with Megiddo to become a fake. The Face Knight Caliber," Luo Hao said eloquently. "What?" Fei Yuzhen's eyes widened. She couldn't believe all this was happening. "That's right, it's true." The sage of Fujiya Palace also responded. "He is a traitor who betrayed the organization." Shindo Taro Lun said solemnly. "Hey, I can't say this directly," Mei said angrily to Taro. Taro was silent for a while. The wise man looked at Shindo Rentaro, sighed in disappointment and walked out of the bookstore. "Harm," Luo Hao sighed. "It seems we have a lot to overcome." Luo Hao raised his head and said, back to Stelius at this point. "What kind of monster is this kid? How can he be so strong?" Kamiju said with a wry smile while rubbing his aching shoulders. "That guy feels powerful and scary." Stellis said silently, "We can't just go forward to fight it recklessly, otherwise it's just cannon fodder in his eyes." "Then, what are we going to do?" Kamiju said with a questioning face. "Of course that's how." Stelius smiled wickedly, calling a few of the men present. After a murmur, an evil plan came into being. "You leave me alone," the wise man shouted. "How can I ignore you? Can't you calm down?" Shindo Taro Lun said to the sage seriously. "I want the truth. My father is not a traitor," cried the sage hysterically. "Why are they quarreling?" Yuya looked at all this wrongly. "It seems that it's because Taro's words are heavy," Fei Yuzhen whispered. "If you don't abandon your personal feelings and solve the problem, you don't deserve to be a swordsman," Shindo Taro Rin still said solemnly. "I am a swordsman, but I am first and foremost a man. If you do this, you don't deserve to be a swordsman. You should return the holy sword." "Okay, after everything is over, I will return the holy sword immediately." After saying that, the sage walked out of the door with an indifferent expression. "Hey, hey," Taro chased after seeing this. On the other side, Rachel gathered a bunch of goblin monsters to gather on an upstairs. "Come on, little ones, it's time to capture the great power of the fantasy world," Rachel said, waving her arms. "Woo ha 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 woo," the goblins smiled strangely. After that, they jumped downstairs one by one. Goblins opened books in every neighborhood of the city. In an instant, several blocks fell into Otherworld and the goblins began to attack innocent passersby on the street. "Lord Sophia, many blocks are disappearing," May said to Sophia in surprise. "Looks like it's time for me to talk to this guy Liz," Sophia muttered to herself. "Let's go," Fei Yuzhen said. In an instant, the surrounding swordsmen all set off. Luo Hao walked to Sophia. "Actually, there's no need to be so troublesome. Are you the king of the time? Haha, it seems that it's time for you to show off your skills and buy it. Absolutely lives the mission." After that, Luo Hao rushed out of the base. "These guys, it's time to teach them a lesson." Luo Hao walked quickly to a street where a goblin kept attacking passersby with a big stick in his hand. "Woo ha 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 ha," the goblin laughed arrogantly. "Hey, that ugly bee *****D, Luo Hao shouted. The goblin rushed over with a big laugh. Luo Hao took out the driver, turned it 360 degrees and shouted loudly. "Kamen Rider Zio King, transform!" In an instant, the big clock appeared behind Luo Hao. A golden light surrounded Luo Hao. Immediately, the battle with the goblins began, and Shi Wang stepped forward and slashed a few times. The goblin was shocked and stepped back 520 steps. The goblin who was in pain was grabbed by a few sticks in the morning. It's your turn. After saying that, King Shi inserted the sword in his hand into the drive, read it to kill. The King of Time is the strongest, spinning slash. Immediately afterwards, Shi Wang quickly slashed a few knives, slashing the goblins to the point where they were unable to fight back and were beaten passively all the time. The King of Time gathers strength. In an instant, Luo Hao's sword began to gather golden energy, domineering cut. It was slashed with lightning speed and came in and out with a burst of sparks. Goblins go west. Next place Abgi. After speaking, Shi Wang took out a card in his pocket. Insert the drive. The power of time, the flow of time. A burst of sound came out and a huge clock appeared. The minute hand and the hour hand fly out of it with aura, turning into something like two snowboards. Luo Hao stepped on the pointer and flew to another block. Go to hell, go to die. Fei Yuzhen was caught in the battle. It hurts, stop it, it hurts. Fei Yuzhen, who had not recovered yet, was beaten and bowed down. Pass it to me. Kamen Rider Zio is here, prepare to die. After saying that, Luo Hao jumped off the pointer and pulled out the big sword in his hand. Time gathering, shuttle flying slash. After that, Luo Hao turned into a burst of lightning and stepped forward to directly slash the goblin. The goblin collapsed to the ground in pain, unable to stand up for a long time. Fei Yu really cheered up and rushed forward. Under a bridge, the surrounding silt and gravel are entangled. You really misunderstood the organization. The organization won't do this. Sophia said sincerely. I am the seeker of truth. Yes, Fei Yuzhen responded. Long time no see, you have turned into a dark knight. Sophia said coldly. In order to seek the truth and talk about selling my soul to the devil, I became Megiddo's subordinate. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. Yeah, the organization won't do such a thing, Shindo Rintaro retorted seriously. The goblins were slashed with one sword at a time. Why are you with this guy? Are you secretly colluding with each other to frame my father as a traitor? Where's my father? Why on earth are you doing this? The wise man looked at Kamiju, who was on the side. Looks like I have to ask you a question today. Why are you here? The sages found this place and looked at Kamiju land opposite Sophia, and the sages were not angry. After all, the sage took out the drive. Sophia stood on one side, Kamiju on the other. Your father is a traitor. He has been dealt with by me, Kamiju said indifferently with a strong murderous look on his face. He's out of combat power, I'll leave the rest to you, Luo Hao shouted at Fei Yuzhen. Immediately afterwards, Luo Hao went to the next block. Come on then. Kamiju took out the drive. Transformation, Araski magic lamp. In an instant, the sage was surrounded by Araski's golden light. Transformation, evil dragon, king's sword. A dark purple-blue dragon instantly wrapped Kamiju's earth. The sage raised his sword excitedly and rushed up, slashing with one sword and one sword. Wang Jian easily avoided the attack of the sage, and the sage could not cause much damage to Wang Jian at all. Sparks flew like a welder welding an aircraft carrier. That's all. You are far from your father, trash, Wang Jian mocked. Shut up for me, I'm going to risk my life today to defeat you, this guy. The sage spit out angrily. At this moment, on the other side, a beam of light appeared in the area of the goblin killed by Luo Hao, penetrating the sky straight. Fei Yuzhen also successfully killed the goblin with the help of Luo Hao, and instantly another beam of light shot into the sky. What is this? Several surviving passers-by stared blankly. Not good, Fei Yu shouted sincerely. It seems that the door of Otherworld has opened and the whole area will become Otherworld. Luo Hao thought to himself. Then the goblins in each area were easily killed by Luo Hao. There are 2 blocks left. Leave it to those other swordsmen. Under the bridge, by the water, a golden Kamen Rider and a purple Kamen Rider are fighting fiercely. The battle was so intense that there were sparks everywhere. Why do you say that about my father? Why do you? The sage shouted hysterically, waving the knife in his hand. Wang Jian followed his tricks one by one as if he was playing tricks on a young child. Learn to flash. In an instant, a purple sword was swung out, and the sage was beaten and flew dozens of meters away. A 360-degree rotation, the wise man fell with all 4 of his feet upside down. The sage continued to fight, followed by a powerful blow which directly knocked the sage back to human form. The game is over, stinky brat. Wang Jian raised his sword to kill the sage. The sage closed his eyes in despair. Puff, someone blocked the attack for the sage. Rentaro Shindo, Sophia exclaimed. The wise man slowly opened his eyes and saw Rentaro Shindo, who was blocking the fatal blow for him in front of him. Zero, ask for flowers. Taro, you. The sage looked at Taro in shock. Taro smiled and looked at the wise man and then fell into the wise man's arms. It seems that you had a good time today, damn Wang Jian. The appearance of this voice made Wang Jian tremble in his heart. It was Luo Hao who arrived. Many times people will give up something because of their own selfish desires. You sold your soul directly to the devil. Luo Hao sneered. Who do you think you are? You're just a coward, not a seeker of truth. You. Shut up, Wang Jian said tremblingly. Oh, haha, I see if you have the ability. Shi Wang shouted loudly and rushed over with the hour and minute hands under his feet. Wang Jian turned and jumped to dodge, but he still couldn't dodge Luo Hao's attack completely and was slashed in the back by Luo Hao's sword. Let's have a man-to-man fight, damn it. Let's just say Luo Hao raised the Shuangjian in his hand, rushed forward with a lunge and slashed at the Wangjian with a quick, invisible movement. Wang Jian couldn't dodge Kamen Rider Takuang's attack at all. He couldn't keep his head up from being beaten. Suddenly, the king withdrew a few steps. At this time, Wang Jian was out of breath from the beating and he could not stand still. Shi Wang inserted the sword in his hand into the drive. Read it to kill. The king of time is the strongest, lightning strikes. In an instant, the sword in Wang's hand was covered with golden lightning, dazzlingly glowing. UB******D, go to 520 die. After all, Luo Hao rushed forward like a bullet, and Wang Jian was hit and flew out in an instant, hitting the bridge pier with his head. At the same time, Wang Jian also changed back to human form. Cough, cough, you lunatic. Kamaju coughed a few mouthfuls of blood on the ground, apparently had an internal injury. It seems that it has become easier to deal with you. Luo Hao said contemptuously, it's not over yet, after all, Kamaju Daichai took out a new drive. Transform, Evil King Flying Dragon. A purple-black dragon larger than before wrapped Kamaju Daichai's body. In an instant, Wang Jian rose to another level. Huh, come on. Kamen Rider Shuang shouted loudly. Fei Yuzhen on the other side, after defeating the goblins, has not been able to get any clues of the sage. Xianren, where have you been? Suddenly, Fei Yu really seemed to have remembered something. His brain was dizzy, and the past scenes began to flash before his eyes. The girl who was sucked into the abyss. Luna, her name is Luna. Another one who used to be by my side all the time was a boy, a little boy. Who is it? Who is it? Fei Yu really struggled to stand up. Mingaming Shenshin Fei Yu is really hahaha. Zeus found him, an ancient Egyptian sickle-shaped sword in his hand. Come and fight with this, uncle. After all, Zeus rushed forward and slashed at Fei Yu with a few knives. You can't beat me, Zeus shouted contemptuously. The ending of the story is up to me, Fei Yuzhen shouted. After all, the two of them fought, one of them slashed and one of me plunged, and they refused to give in to each other. Fei Yu really found the opportunity. One sideways dodged Zeus's slash and turned around, his knees pressed against Zeus's belly. Zeus screamed in pain and stepped back. Fei Yu really saw the opportunity to insert the sword into Drive 0. Ready to kill? Flaming sword and fire journey to the west. Naive, Zeus sneered. Wang Jian inserted the dark sword Yuyan in his hand into the drive. After Zeus was passively beaten, he started waving the knife in his hand indiscriminately. Shi Wang raised his hand to block it. Ready to kill, the huge shock wave shook the stones and soft sand on the ground. Fei Yu was shot to the ground with an inadvertent one. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. 3 sword blade bullets are generally drawn towards Shi Wang. A somersault cloud drove out instantly. Fei Yu stepped on the somersault cloud and slashed Zeus back and forth. Luo Hao on the other side, while frantically waving the king's sword in his hand, slashed towards the king's sword frantically. Fei Yu groaned in pain and immediately stood up. Immediately afterwards, Yosi stabbed Fei Yuzhen's chest with another knife. After Wang Jian was sent a few hundred meters away, he immediately spun in the air to gain a firm footing. Evil King Feilong, acquire 3 flashes. Suddenly the attack stopped. Wang Jian retreated a few steps, but Shi Wang rushed behind him and kicked Wang Jian's left waist. Wang Jian became much stronger than before, but he still lost to Kamen Rider Shi Wang's crazy slash. Is that all you can do? Shi Wang patted the dust on his shoulders without any pain and walked out of the dust with a swagger. Just you. Do you still want to compete with me? Shi Wang laughed, and the laughter completely angered Wang Jian. I killed you. After Wang Jian finished speaking, he rushed over. Shi Wang inserted the sword in his hand into the drive. Read it to kill. The king of time is the strongest. Time stands still. In an instant, the surrounding things seemed to stand still. Wang Jian seemed to be activated in slow motion and slowly slashed towards Luo Hao. One Luo Hao rushed to Wang Jian's left side with a single stride. He gave him a meaningful look. Then came a series of strikes, roundhouse kicks. Stop the move. In an instant, the speed of the surrounding things returned to normal. Wang Jian was beaten and fell to the ground, returning to his human form. Kamen Rider Time King also changed back to human form. Luo Hao stepped forward and looked at Kamaju, who stood up after being beaten. You what, monster? Kamaju Daichai shouted in anger and a bit of fear. I'm just a passing Cayman rider. Be careful, Luo Hao, the wise man suddenly shouted. I saw a sword edge flying towards Luo Hao. Luo Hao just smiled, then lowered his head and avoided it. Stellius watched in astonishment as the edge of his sword fell in vain. A sneak attack. Luo Hao instantly changed back to the king of Cayman rider and turned around and swung dozens of swords to the rear. Stellius couldn't dodge in time and was beaten with sparks. Kamaju Daichai took the opportunity to summon the Book of Otherworld and escaped. Luo Hao turned to look at the empty ground, leaving only a puff of black smoke. Stellius knew he was wrong, so he turned into a puff of black smoke and fled. A bunch of silkworm seeds. Luo Hao cursed inwardly. The perspective returns to Fei Yuzhen. Zeus has been beaten away by Fei Yuzhen's nirvana. You'll see me again? Zeus threatened. I will accompany you anytime. Fei Yuzhen responded. Rintaro Shindo, how are you? Luo Hao called to him. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. The sage said sadly, tears almost popping out of his eyes. Answer me, sage, as a swordsman you should. Sophia began to teach the sage. Luo Hao said softly. After being rescued for a while, Shindo Rentaro finally regained his heartbeat. After a set of dressing procedures, Shindo Rentaro wrapped several layers of gauze on his body and lay on the bed. The sage lowered his head and silently wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. Zionrin, you be *****D. Do you know how much Taro is worried about you? Why are you doing this? Why can't you calm down? Now you see Taro lying there half dead. Are you satisfied? 520. Yi's angry tone gradually turned to crying and she sat unsteadily on the ground. Burst into tears. Tell me, Taro, will he be all right? Yi asked Fei Yuzhen in front of her. Xian Ren burst into tears and looked at Yi at a loss. Luo Hao summoned the aircraft with the hour and minute hands and rushed to the base. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. Fei Yu brought her back to the room with Yi, who was floating and crying. When she returned to the base, Mei almost fainted when she saw Rintaro Shindo, who had returned from a serious injury. Quick, put it on my back, Luo Hao shouted anxiously. It seems you need to make up for everyone this time. You be *****D, you answer me. Fei Yu said calmly, he'll be fine. Taro didn't suffer too much injury, just a temporary coma plus skin trauma and bruises all over his body. Woo. Yi then slowly stopped crying. Stellius on the other side was lying on the reclining chair. It seems that there is a lot of trouble today, Stellius said angrily. That guy is really a monster. No matter how I attack him, he can dodge it, or my attack is completely useless to him, Wang Jian complained on the side. That guy killed a goblin in less than a minute. Goblins are as fragile as cabbage to be cut in his eyes. Zio said with some trembling, it seems that this Langxian can only be defeated if we fight together. Having said that, Stellius smiled evilly, looked at the map in front of him, and 3 beams of light had already risen. The wise man went to the rooftop in a sullen mood, blowing the evening wind sullenly. Zionrin, don't blame yourself too much. Fei Yuzhen also came up to the rooftop and said to Zionrin. The sage looked at Fei Yuzhen silently, his eyes thoughtful. Since I lost my memory, I have turned into a swordsman of flames. Every time the battle is over, I can recall some things. They are the scenes in my dream. Actually, there are some things that I don't think you can recall, the sage said meaningfully. Ah, why? Because you have a very important agreement with some people. In the agreed place, there will always be too many memories. After the sage finished speaking, he turned and walked down the rooftop. Zionrin, you really make me a little unpredictable. Fei Yu thought about it sincerely and then left with him. The promised place. Where is the promised place? Fei Yu really thought about it for a long time and didn't understand. The next day, Rachel brought a bunch of Megiddo to the city to make trouble. Many knights who received the mission began to go to their respective mission locations. Uncle Ryoagami, please be sure to fight with the sage of Fujiya Palace. Sophia said to Uncle Ryoagami. Yes, your lord. As a result, the swordsmen dispersed and went to the districts they were responsible for. Luo Hao fights 8 with 1, and Wang Jian flies up and down among the enemies, like a scythe for reaping wheat. Immediately took out the drive and rotated it 360 degrees. Fei Yuzhen was blocked by a familiar person at this time, Zeos and a Megiddo. The Thunder swordsman moved like thunder, struggling to repel the enemy in front of him. At this time, Cayman rider Xiwang arrived and the 2 guys were scared to buy. This guy is really ugly, Fei Yu thought to himself. Fei Yuzhen began to fall into the downwind and was directly beaten out of breath. Old Zhang and old accounts together, come on, Fei Yuzhen shouted loudly. The swordsman of sound slashed at Megiddo in a dynamic manner. After the familiar sound effect, Fei Yuzhen picked up the sword in his hand and started to fight with the opponent. You 2 guys. Luo Hao sneered. Zio's face was extremely ugly, which really put a lot of psychological pressure on Fei Yuzhen. You kid, you seem to be good at playing. After saying that, Megiddo, who was on the side of Ziola, started to attack Fei Yuzhen together, transform into Kamen Rider Saber. Sanfeng Fang, you stabbed me Li Li's and slashed back and forth with a sword. Did you even have a kick or a punch? Go to hell. After that, Luo Hao clenched the sword in his hand. You guys seem to be in bad luck. Fei Yu smiled wickedly. Kamen Rider Shi Wang rushed over with a stride, but the fast Zios couldn't see it clearly. Then Shi Wang slashed directly at Zios and Megiddo with a slash. Zio stepped back in pain. Megiddo was directly blown up. Luo Hao didn't intend to let him go, and it was another whiplash. Zios directly threw a dog and gnawed at the mud. Fei Yu looked at Luo Hao with admiration. Zio struggled to get up and ran away in a puff of black smoke. Don't chase, this guy has nothing to chase. Luo Hao said lightly. Ryo Agami had already defeated the goblins. 523 just when he was proud. When he turned his head, the sage who was still fighting just now has disappeared. Zionren, where have you been? Ryo Agami shouted anxiously. The sage at this time had already appeared on the lawn where Luna was sucked away that year, and there were a few big trees planted around it. Standing opposite him was Kamaju Daichai. Kamaju Daichai looked at Fuka Palace Sage with an indifferent expression, as if a lion was going to eat a rabbit. On the other side, Fei Yuzhen seemed to recall something. His eyes were wide open, and the past scenes reappeared in front of his eyes. The one who made a promise with him and Luna under the tree is nodded. Fuga Palace Sage, Fei Yu, who remembered everything, was really shocked and didn't know what to do. What's wrong with Fei Yuseng? Luo Hao asked him. I remembered everything, Fei Yu shouted excitedly. Fugia Palace Sage, he was my childhood playmate and we have a very important agreement. I must save Lu Milk. After all, Fei Yu was really crazy and rushed to the block in charge of Uncle Ryo Agami. Luo Hao also chased after him. At the promised place that year, the sage was struggling with Wang Jian. Wang Jian, an old fried dough stick with rich combat experience, can easily hang the immature little boy in front of him. The sage has also turned on the Golden Arankina state and is fighting with Kamaju with all his strength. Aren't you afraid of death? Kamaju Daich asked the wise man contemptuously. The wise man struck again with a knife. Stop talking nonsense. Even if I risk my life today, I will definitely defeat you. The hysterical roar made Kamaju Daich annoyed a little. Get out of the way, Kamaju said, and he kicked Fuka Gong Zionren directly with one kick. The sage took a few steps back, ready to kill. Learn 3 flashes. The wise man seemed to feel the darkness before his eyes. After Fei Yuzhen found Uncle Agami Ryo, he hurriedly asked where the sage was. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Everyone follow me, quick. Along the way, scenes flashed back in front of his eyes. Fei Yuzhen summoned the masked motorcycle and hurried to the promised place. Quick, he said. Fei Yu hesitated. Luna, I am a seeker of truth. Beyond awareness, you can see Hope started shouting hysterically. The agreed place. Calm down, where do you think he will go? Luo Hao shouted to calm him down. The promised place. Fei Yu really thought of this place, about, I will definitely save you, Luna. The sage is gone, Uncle Agami said anxiously. Passerby, oh my god, this. Fei Yuzhen's heart was about to die at this time. A voice called out in his ear. Finally, the 3 of them arrived at the agreed place. At this time, the place was full of traces of battle. The sage, who was lying on the edge of the grass, looked like he was dying. Sage, Fei Yu shouted like crazy. He hurried forward and hugged the sage. Sage, the sage of Fugia Palace. Wake up, Fei Yuzhen cried out to him, and the sage of Fugia Palace had bloodstains and bruises on his face, and he didn't know whether he was dead or alive. Where's that guy from Kamaju Daichai? Uncle Ryo Agami shouted angrily. Looks like I can't be soft on that damn guy anymore. Luo Hao said viciously. Sage, a familiar voice came and everyone turned their heads. It was Shindo Rentaro. How could he come? The gauze on Shindo Taro Lun's chest has not been removed, and looking at the wounds with blood stasis, it seems that he has just fought. Shindo Taro Lun looked at the unconscious sage and could not help but shed tears of sadness. Look at it. The weak only deserve to end up like this. Kamaju Daichai's voice came from behind the tree. Damn guy, I fought with him. Uncle Agami heard that he was going to fight him. A asterisk hole. Shindo Rentaro also dragged his sick body forward. I have to kill this guy even if I die today. Fei Yuzhen rushed forward after saying that. Everyone step back, Luo Hao shouted. I'll settle this account with him. Seeing this, everyone knew that their strength was no match for Kamaju, so they obediently retreated. Send the sage to the base for treatment as soon as possible. Go, Luo Hao turned his head and shouted. Several people hurriedly beat the sage and ran towards the direction of the base. Why are you so strong? Kamaju asked tentatively. There's no reason, you just need to know that you're going to die ugly now. After speaking, Luo Hao rushed to Kamaju with a flash of speed. Kamaju Earth transformed into a battle. The two fought extremely fiercely. One was the strongest Kamen rider of the Messenger of Justice, and the other was the newly upgraded King Sword Evil Knight. Sparks were flying, dust was flying, and gravel flew with the ground. The place to fight is like experiencing a tornado. Luo Hao slashed a few times, causing Wang Jian to retreat, and then made up for a few more kicks. Luo Hao inserted the sword in his hand into the drive. Kamaju Daichai also inserted the dark sword Tsukiguro into the drive at the same time. Ask for flowers, read it to kill, ready to kill, the King of Shi is the strongest and the King of Shi is slashing the moon. Evil King Fei Long acquire 3 flashes. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone, net. Your support enables us to keep the site running, Luo Hao smiled. Wang Jian coughed out a mouthful of blood and spat it on the ground, running really fast. Luo Hao smiled contemptuously. 5. Carved bug trick. In an instant, Wang Jian's sword Qi drew out 3 lines and attacked Shi Wang like a bullet. You guy, what a monster. Kamaju said in disbelief. Kamaju Daichai was still rescued. Cough, cough, Yue. Suddenly, a hurricane echoed from behind as if something was approaching quickly. After a puff of black smoke spread, Luo Hao stepped forward and slashed in the fog for a long time. Ooh! Wang Jian was instantly beaten and returned to his human form. Immediately afterwards, lightning rushed to Wang Jian's side, a burst of strikes, and the speed was so fast that people couldn't see it clearly. Call. After all, Luo Hao is ready to get to know him. Luo Hao jumped to dodge. Look closely, smoke bombs. Stop talking nonsense. I saw that he instantly drew out dozens of sword Qi, which directly exploded his learned 3-flash sword Qi. That guy, it's better not to fight him first. You almost died at his hands today, Styria said in a panic. Cough. Wow. Kamaju spit out a mouthful of blood. It's not a bad guy, Kamaju said with a trembling voice. On the other side, everyone gathered together and looked at the wise man on the bed. Will he be all right? Fei Yuzhen said with tears on her face. 527, he has been devoured by the power of darkness and will soon die directly. Luo Hao said sadly, he's really messed up. That guy is very powerful, he went straight up to die. Saying that, a tear fell from Uncle Agami Ryo. The power of the dark sword Moondark is slowly swallowing the sages of Fujiya Palace, and it seems that there is no solution. However, I can try my thing. Having said that, Luo Hao put the watch of the King of Time in his hand on the head of the sage. The watch was attached to the forehead of the sage and began to glow. Woo 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 woo, Xianren jumped up in pain. Hold him down. Fei Dao Lion hurried forward. The crowd held him down only after abolishing the power of 9 bulls and 2 tigers. The sage's eyes turned red, and he roared loudly with purple-black smoke coming out of his body. After a few minutes, the sage became quiet and lay directly on the bed, and the watch of the king no longer glowed. It seems that Shi Wang Biao has absorbed some of the power of darkness, but it can cure the symptoms but not the root cause. We must use the power of the dark sword Yue and to completely absorb the power of darkness in his body, Luo Hao said seriously. Are we going to grab the sword from that guy? Shindo Rentaro asked. Simply put, that's what happened, Luo Hao replied. Then everyone is ready to rest and get ready to go. Shenshin Feiyu really said slowly, his eyes filled with hatred. Luo Hao sang, you are really strong, Yi said leisurely. Ha, it's okay. Luo Hao scratched his head and said with a smile. It seems that all this will take a long time to end. Luo Hao muttered in his heart. There is only one last gate left. As long as the last gate is opened, more powerful power can be obtained, Styria said with a smirk. I don't know how fast that boy sage will die, ha 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 ha. Kamaju Daddy sneered and said 0. Don't be too happy, maybe that guy named Shi Wang will save him. Rachel said on the side, humph. The power of darkness cannot be easily eliminated. Kamaju said fiercely, back to Fei Yuzhen. A group of people ordered the takeaway base to arrive. Yi walked into the room with 3 big bags of food. Is the sage still awake? Yi asked with tears on her face. It might take a while before I wake up. Fei Yuzhen was silently guarding him. Come on everyone, have something to eat. After all, the food in the bag has been distributed. Luo Hao ate hot tonkatsu ramen and stuffed a fried tempura into his mouth. Taro took a bite of the hamburger in his hand and looked at Luo Hao's eating 2-6 in surprise. This Luo Hao can not only fight but also eat. Uncle Agami Ryo took a mouthful of fried pork chops. You can eat, Luo Hao sang. Fei Dao Lion said while laughing, and after laughing she stuffed a fried dumpling into her mouth. After Luo Hao finished the ramen, he added another bowl of rice, soaked it in the soup, and added some pepper noodles to it. It's good to eat, hahaha, Fei Yuzhen said jokingly. After the meal, everyone rested. The next morning, Luo Hao got up early, packed his clothes in a few minutes, and walked out of the rental house. Not long after walking out, the 5 beams of light outside were particularly conspicuous. Luo Hao looked at the beams of light and thought about it. When we approached the base, the restaurant on the side of the road was selling its own fried buns. It looks like a good restaurant. Luo Hao felt extra relaxed. Walking into the store, there were a lot of people in the store. Luo Hao ordered 10 raw buns and 2 boxes of hot milk. The fried buns came up quickly, but it really didn't look good. Luo Hao took a big mouthful without thinking much, but suddenly realized that the taste was not right. Scare. Luo Hao spat out the fried foreskin in his mouth. This taste is... Luo Hao 01 suddenly felt the first star and fell down on the table. This guy, this is fooled, ha 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 ha. The store manager on the side laughed a few times. The customers in the store also dispersed in an instant, and they walked out of the store one after another as if they were hired actors. Zeos, are you doing a good job, ha 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 ha? Kamaju Daichai walked into the store and said to the manager behind the bar. If that's the case, no one will do anything good, Kamaju said fiercely. What are you doing? Luo Hao's voice came from behind him. Aren't you? You, Zeos said in shock. You think I don't know who you are, damn Mr. Zeos. Luo Hao said to him contemptuously. The raw fried buns just now were all medicated. I deliberately ate a few of them, but I didn't swallow them. You are really stupid. A raw fried bun made like this is really unpalatable. After saying that, Luo Hao slapped the table, take out the drive and rotate it 360 degrees. Transformation, the power of the King of Time. After all, a huge clock appeared behind him. Several golden rays of light appeared, wrapping him heavily. Sometimes some guys just don't know how high the sky is and they dare to poison people with food, you 2 damn bastards. Luo Hao finished cursing. Dragon of the evil king, transform. Zeos ran straight away. This guy is as timid as a mouse. Kamaju Daichai cursed in his heart. How do you want to die? Luo Hao asked contemptuously. I think let you die first, Kamaju said fiercely. How many times have you called? Not long enough to remember. After saying that, Luo Hao rushed forward and a blow made him back again and again. Then fight him. The spark was like the tip of a welding gun against the iron plate and it kept splashing everywhere. I killed you. Fei Yuzhen arrived just in time and also transformed into and participated in the battle. Originally, Luo Hao could solve the problem directly by himself, but now he has added an assistant and the effect has doubled. 527 Sun Wang Jian was beaten and collapsed to the ground. You be *************, you can't cry without seeing the coffin. Luo Hao was ready to send him away with one blow. Wait, Luo Hao sang, Fei Yuzhen suddenly shouted. Sage, how can he ask the power of darkness? He didn't save it, the darkness will completely swallow him, he will directly gray to open, will not leave any traces. Listed in the earth. Cow, Luo Hao stepped forward and slashed his chest twice. Kamaju clenched his chest tightly in pain. When death is imminent, do you still want to be stubborn? After speaking, Luo Hao grabbed the dark sword Yuyan from his hand. This sword can save the Sage brothers. Luo Hao handed the sword to Fei Yuzhen. After Fei Yuzhen got the sword, he immediately turned around and rode on the masked motorcycle and rushed to the base. Xianren, hold on, I'm here, Fei Yu shouted sincerely. You must hold on. You guy at this time, what else do you want to say? Luo Hao asked contemptuously. Do you really think that sword can be his? Kamaju smiled. The sword will only make those who get it more and more evil, more and more swallowed up by its terrifying power without exception. What, you said that? Luo Hao said in surprise. That's right, now that kid has the sword, it will speed up the speed at which that guy is swallowed by the power of darkness. Kamaju said fiercely. Not good. Luo Hao was going crazy at this time. He summoned the aircraft with the hour and minute hands, stepped on it, and rushed directly to the base. Kamaju Daichai struggled to get up, ready to escape. You man, where do you want to run? In the distance, Uncle Ryo Agami and Mr. Fei Daolin came. You. Change my sword. Kamaju Daichai knew that he was wrong and wanted to run away immediately. It was just about to turn into black smoke, but it was already caught by the Thunder Swordsman. Eat my punch. A punch hit Kamaju Daichai in the face, and Kamaju Daichai spit out a mouthful of blood and lay on the ground. Xianren, I'm here to save you. Fei Yuzhen rushed into the sage's room, ready to find a way to rescue the sage with the power of the dark sword Yuan. Fei Yu really, stop, Luo Hao shouted. Fei Yu really trembled, and the dark sword Yuan in his hand had begun to unknowingly began to enter the power of darkness into the sage's body to devour his body. This sword can't save him. This sword will continue to drive him deeper into the deep abyss. Luo Hao said anxiously. After speaking, Luo Hao grabbed the dark sword Yuan and threw it out of the window. The sage suddenly became restless and began to twitch all over his body. His eyes turned red and he foamed at the mouth. Sage. Fei Yu was about to collapse. Seeing this, Luo Hao took out the watch and put it on the forehead of the sage with the real efforts of Fei Yu and Fei Yu. Fei Yuzhen lay down in an instant, and Shi Wangzhai started to fight back against the power of darkness. The sage tossed back and forth on the bed in pain, and after a few minutes the sage became quiet. Phew, that sword just now was pouring the power of darkness into his body again. He almost died again, Luo Hao said. Then what's wrong with him now? Fei Yuzhen asked. My Shuang watch can only drive away 90% of the dark power in his body. I can feel that there are 10% of the power that can't be solved at all. They are distributed in his very important organs. If my power fights the power of darkness in his vital organs, Li Laya Ajo, what will happen to him? He will be disemboweled in an instant, his organs will fail, and he will become a vegetative person. Luo Hao said weakly. Could it be that he really couldn't be saved completely? Fei Yuzhen asked anxiously. The power of darkness has a very strong reproductive capacity. No matter how many times my power clears him, he will still be devoured by the power of darkness from time to time. Ah, Fei Yuzhen also fainted at this moment. Fei Yuzhen. Ye, who just arrived, helped Fei Yuzhen and with the help of Luo Hao helped him to another room. The power of darkness spreads very fast. Please help me, he will start to be attacked by it at any time, and it is impossible to eradicate him, unless you want him to be unable to stand up for the rest of his life and become a vegetative person with an inhuman shape. Luo Hao explained. Is it so scary? Ye asked in surprise. On the other side, the two knights had beaten Kamaju to a pig's head, with bruises all over his face and blood on the top of his head staining his cheeks. At this time, Luo Hao rushed back with the dark sword Yuyan. D damn it. After speaking, he returned the sword to him. Kamaju Daichai, who had the sword in his hand, stood up. Transformation, Dragon of the Evil King. Kamaju Daichai, who had just become the Dragon of the Evil King, picked up his sword and rushed towards Ryo 527 Ao. Be smart, you really don't know how to beg for mercy when you are about to die. After that, King Shi stepped forward and slashed the Dragon of the Evil King in front of him. Call. At this time, only a dark sword Yuan was left on the ground. The three then returned to the base. On the other hand, Stelius learned the news of the defeat of the Dragon of the Evil King. Ha 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 ha, this guy didn't expect to be defeated. Is this funny to you? Zeos shouted angrily at Stelius. No, 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 the show is about to begin. Abk. Stelius sneered. It's not going to end like this, Stelius said to the tearful Zeos. On the other hand, the sage's condition is getting worse and worse. The whole person has begun to lose weight and he can't eat. The sage was about to be swallowed up by the power of darkness again. Luo Hao once again placed the watch of the king on his head. The sage regained his composure again. Alas, if this goes on, his physique will decline again, and eventually he will die. Luo Hao said sadly, is he really helpless? Fei Yuzhen asked while crying. Luo Hao shook his head and put down the Shiwang watch in his hand. At this time, the power of darkness began to attack him again. Just when Luo Hao released Wang Bio again, Fei Yuzhen stopped him. Enough, Fei Yuzhen cried. Don't let him be tortured anymore, let him suffer less. The sword radiated purple-blue light and was shining. Kamiyama Fei Yu really shouted. Everyone burst into tears, watching the sages be eaten up by the backlash, and the whole person was directly swallowed by the power of darkness. Sages, see you in the future. I want to kill everyone in this organization. Hum hum. He's always been a good swordsman, always has been, always been, Shindo Taro Lun cried. Stelius on the other side seems to be plotting a bigger plan. Brother Zionran, I hope to see you again next time. The sage's death is worth it, we have to avenge him. This time I can't just let it go. Luo Hao clenched the spacetime drive in his hand. At this time a mysterious person walked up to the dark sword Yuan and looked at the sword. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Uncle Yi burst into tears. Luo Hao touched his eyes and turned his head. Sage, I will avenge you, Fei Dao Lion shouted angrily. He'll be better on the other side, Ye cried. Death is inherent in man, either lighter than a feather or heavier than Mount Tai. Wang Jian won't be defeated just like that, Stelius said leisurely. With that said, Wang Jian actually walked into the base. The wicked people looked at the land in front of Kamaju and their mouths widened in surprise. How is that possible? Zeos was really shocked. The beam of light has been assembled and the book will be finished soon. Saying that, Stelius looked triumphantly at the mirror in front of him and the book was almost finished. On the other side, everyone was united and gathered together. Start, let's act, there is one last place, let's go together, Fei Yuzhen shouted. Go, Luo Hao said righteously. Everyone went to the block together. Rachel had assembled a bunch of Megiddo at this time to wreak havoc. Kill me hard, ha 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 ha, Rachel shouted arrogantly. Zeus also joined in at this time and began to wreak havoc on the block and beat the crowd. Luo Hao and his party arrived. Luo Hao looked at the evil knight who was wreaking havoc in front of him, suddenly took out the space-time drive. Transform, Kamen Rider Zeo King of Time, transform. Immediately, all 5 of them turned into Kamen Rider forms. Luo Hao took a step ahead, rushed forward, and slashed a Megiddo flying with one knife. Not to be outdone, the other 3 started to fight with them. Just as the group was fighting fiercely, the dragon of the evil king came out. You be *****D. How are you still alive? Ryo Agami shouted and rushed up, slashing with the dragon of the evil king. Fei Yuzhen also stepped forward to cut each other with him. At this time, Stelius also jumped out of the beam of light and participated in the battle. The scene was extremely hot, with splashing sparks and the friction of swords everywhere, the sound of killing, and the sound of skilled touches. Rachel began to control the surrounding gravel and concrete blocks and smashed them around. Shindo Rentaro stepped forward and cut 3 rounds with the dragon of the evil king. When he was about to activate his skill, he was hit by a gravel. Taro was negligent and was slashed by the dragon of the evil king and flew out. After Luo Hao slashed 4 Megiddo in a row, he turned around and slashed at Rachel, who kept using ADC skills. At this moment, Sudume rushed to the battlefield. Rintaro Shindo, Taro, here's a new book. At this time, a new book appeared in front of Fei Yuzhen. After the book circled around Fei Yuzhen, it stopped in front of Fei Yuzhen. Wang Jian smiled. Feiyu is true, ask for flowers. Uncle Agami Ryo was hit a few meters away. Fei Yuzhen was stunned and immediately took the new card and inserted it into the drive. Kamen Rider Holy Dragon Knight, just as he reached out to pick it up, Luna's voice grew louder. This voice is, yes. At this time, Fei Yu was really beaten by the dragon of the evil king and fell to the ground panting. Mei's voice attracted Shindo Rintaro, who had just stood up. Shindo Taro Lun rushed forward and took down the new book. Good job, brother Fei Yu. Luna. It's Luna calling me. Have you gained a new power? The dragon of the evil king was about to kill Fei Yuzhen when he stepped forward, and Uncle Ryo Agami rushed forward and directly blocked the attack of the dragon of the evil king. Fei Yu really felt her eyes were wet and she was about to cry. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. Just as Fei Yuzhen was adjusting his breathing, he found a sound coming from his own ear. People will betray and promises are for betrayal. Only things that are eternal and unchanged can be trusted. Wang Jian roared. It's not like that, you bloody B********D. Fei Yuzhen responded. After all, the Dragon Knight summoned a burst of fire and burned it. In an instant, there was a distance from Wang Jian, with a raging fire burning in the middle. Transformation, the Great War of the Lion King. At this time, Shindo Rentaro also gained the new power of May 27. 1 red and 1 blue are very conspicuous on the battlefield. Clone, Stelius instantly turned into 6. The crowd had to start fighting again. Fei Yuzhen rushed forward to fight with Wang Jian. The two are indistinguishable. Luo Hao madly attacked Stelius Clone while hitting Rachel. Shindo Rentaro took out a card and inserted it into the drive. Flowing water roars, the big transformation of the Lion King. Transformation of the lion. Shindo Rentaro instantly turned into a big lion. Yei adored and cheered him on. The Lion King roared and rushed over, smashing the villain present on all 4s into the sky. Ryo Agami and Fei Daolin, who had been beaten into human form, lay on the ground and shouted, "Go on, brother Taro. Come on, novelist." Several parties fought fiercely, and the door leading to the invincible force in the sky also quietly opened. Suffered to death, Luo Hao slashed Rachel into the air. Rachel plunged headlong into the concrete wall and took on human form. At this time, everyone gained the upper hand. Megiddo was wiped out, and Wang Jian and other villains were also knocked to the ground. These guys are really vulnerable. Luo Hao sneered, "You guy, it's really hard to deal with." Stelius got up and said with difficulty, "The end of the story, we write it." The group rushed forward. Rachel fled quietly, and the remaining villains also rose to meet. The two sides started a fierce battle. On both sides, you punch and kick, slash, stab, and slash. Can't beat it. Fei Yuzhen cut down Wang Jian with one knife. Wang Jian looked at Fei Yuzhen and got up to fight again. What is the truth you are after? It is worth killing the sage father and son. You'll never understand, novelist. After speaking, the two began to fight for a long time. How the hell did you get so much power? Styrius struggled to resist Luo Hao's attack. Want to know? I'll tell you in hell, Luo Hao said coldly, saying that Luo Hao activated his skills. The King of Time is the strongest, spiral slash. In an instant, Luo Hao's slashing speed became as fast as an auger, slashing Styrius to the point where he was unable to fight back and was passively defending all the time. In this way, go on, my physical strength will be exhausted. You be *****D, go to hell. At this time, Uncle Ryo Agami changed back to the state of a knight and once again fought with Fei, Doran, and Zeos. Zeos was glad that his opponent was not the 2-6 death like Luo Hao. You be *****D, how can you be sober? Fei Yuzhen shouted at Wang Jian angrily. Could it be that the seeker of the truth will kill without blinking? Will it be you? Why do you make such excuses? You damn be ****D. Haha, I will tell you after I defeat you, Wang Jian responded. After speaking, Wang Jian inserted the sword into the drive. Read it to kill, learn 3 flashes. The 3 swordsmen immediately flew towards Shenshin Feiyuk. Fei Yuzhen raised the sword to resist, and the flames wrapped around the sword body, and the fire began to erupt with endless energy, blocking the sword back vigorously. It's my turn. After saying that, Fei Yuzhen inserted the sword in his hand into the drive. Read it to kill, 3 volumes of fire, the red sword will run through the evil, burn everything, blazing red lotus slash. In an instant, countless flame energy bullets quickly hit the opposite Wang Jian. After Wang Jian slashed with his sword a few times, the flame bombs flew faster and faster, and the more and more they flew. Finally, unable to resist, began to passively beaten. The ending of the story is up to me to decide. After speaking, Fei Yuzhen rushed forward and a slash hit Wang Jian. Wang Jian did a backflip and fell a dog gnawing at the mud. Luo Hao drifted away from the fight and directly beat Rachel to the death. At this time, Zhang Yang was lying on the ground, not knowing what to do. HMPH, that's your strength, isn't it? Fei Yu sneered. Stop looking down on people. Rachel got up again at this time and continued to fight. Luo Hao pinpointed his mistake and kicked him to the ground. Luo Hao pierced his arm with a knife and nailed it to the ground. Wow 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 Rachel's scream sounded instantly. The sword was drawn and the blood penetrated the ground. You stay here for a while, Luo Hao said the next sentence, turned around and walked towards Wang Jian. Read it to kill. Xiwingyan smashes, Luo Hao cut down Wang Jian with one knife. Wang Jian has changed back to human form. Kamiju Daichai struggled to get up and leaned against the wall. Stelius, it's your turn. Luo Hao rushed in front of Stelius in an instant. Stelius dodged at once, not fighting him in close quarters. Luo Hao inserted the sword into the drive. Read it to kill. Domineering cut. The knife flew away and Stelius was knocked to the ground, and golden lightning began to appear from his body, burning him constantly. This guy is really difficult. Stelius smiled wryly. Eat my knife. The thunder swordsman descended from the sky, slashing Stelius to the ground. Stelius lay on the ground and saw the open divine book. Fei Dao Lion said with some concern, Where did they go? When did they come back? Sudu Mei asked suspiciously. Stelius said in a sloppy manner. Fei Yu is really, Luo Hao sang, be sure to come back safely. Stelius smiled wickedly. Luo Hao couldn't worry about Fei Yuzhen, took out the driver, summoned the hour and minute hand-flying machine and fell asleep. I'm coming. Wang Jian, kill them for me. Kamiju Earth transformed in an instant, stepped on the purple-black flying dragon and flew towards the book. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. Looks like they are inside the Book of Creation. Fei Yuzhen, Luo Hao sang, come on. Not to be outdone, Shenshin Feiyu summoned a red flying dragon and chased after him. Ha 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 ha, in that world who is strong and who is weak is not necessarily the case. As the 3 flew 530 into the book, the rest of the people were also surprised. The Book of Creation has been opened and we will gain greater power. What? At this moment everyone stopped the battle in their hands and looked at the book in the sky in the distance. Shindo Rentaro said excitedly, Books, books, Stelius shouted several times. At this time Shindo Taro Lun, Fei Dao Lion, Agami Ryo and Sudu Mai were left on the field. Stelius, Rachel Zeos, Shindo Taro Lun shouted and asked, where the hell did they go? Inside the Book of Creation, this book was torn apart many years ago. As long as you can collect the missing pages of the entire book, plus the table of contents of the book they are going to, they can gain great power. You got the power, what are you going to do? Fei Dao Lion shouted. Of course, transform this world. Zeos rushed over and slashed Fei Dao Lion back to human form. At this time, all the knights in the surrounding area changed back to human form due to exhaustion of their stamina. HMPH, this world created by you humans is only a drop in the bucket, and it's not worth mentioning at all. Must stop this guy, Shindo Rantaro shouted. The three knights rushed forward and fought the three villains hand to hand. Several punches of Shindo Rentaro were dodged by Stelius, who turned around and kicked Shindo Rentaro, who quickly got up and continued punching. You guys, give it to me. Before Fei Dao Lion finished speaking, she was punched to the ground by the approaching Zeos. Fei Dao just struggled to get up and punched Fei Dao Lion firmly in the face. Fei Dao Lion knocked her head to the ground instantly. Red blood poured out instantly. Ryo Agami began to attack Rachel. Rachel grabbed the uncle's collar and suddenly hit the uncle's chest with 3 punches. The uncle spat out a mouthful of blood and slapped Rachel in the face with a backhand. Rachel's anger was suddenly ignited, and he knocked the uncle down with a stumbling and instantly rode on the uncle, punching the uncle in the face. The uncle struggled desperately, and Shindo Taro Lun noticed it, turned around and kicked Rachel away with a whip. Immediately after, Zeos punched Shindo Taro Ren in the back again. Taro, who had been injured on his back, fell to the ground and groaned as he shook the open and bleeding wound. A *** hole, Fei Dao Lion cursed loudly. Immediately afterwards, Uncle Agami stepped forward and knocked down Zeos with a heavy punch. Rachel and Stelius rushed forward, punched the left and kicked the right and knocked down the uncle in a few rounds. Only Fei Dao Lion was left to fight against 3 people. The 3 of them swarmed up, making Fei Dao Lion shiver like a chicken lying on the ground and moaning. Alas, I still can't help my. You couldn't stand it any longer and rushed up shouting, Shindo Rentaro said a little sadly. Fei Yu will definitely come back. He is the one who keeps the promise the most. Taro fell to the ground instantly, and Yei hugged his back tightly. The blood from the open wound stained Yei's white skirt. Uncle and Fei Dao Lion stood up when they saw this. Seeing that Yei was about to be beaten, don't. Shindo Rentaro stood up despite the severe pain, immediately followed by a punch. Unbelievable. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone Net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. You tried your best, Taro brother. Cheer up, Taro Luo Hao, Yeye cried. Shindo Rentaro rushed forward with a single stride and blocked the punch with his chest. Zeo sneered. Taro was dragged to a fence. Tremblingly, he helped Maya drag away the injured Taro. Uncle Agami Ryo said firmly. Miya's words instantly ignited the fighting spirit of the 2 of them. Everyone must destroy the beam of light and absolutely cannot let this world be destroyed. After that, the 2 took out the driver and transformed into Kamen Rider. The 3 people on the opposite side looked at them contemptuously, and they also became knights. Immediately afterwards, the 2 began to summon skills to destroy the beam of light. Read, Blake's band. Read, Win Xuanjian Kyoifeng. After the sound effect, the 2 of them fired one shot, destroying the 2 beams of light. A *** hole, Rachel rushed forward and took the lead in fighting with the 2 of them. Immediately afterwards, the 3 of them scuffled together, and one sword were equal to each other. Prepare to die, Stelius shouted and launched another attack. Yanmo slash. Fei Dao Lion was beaten and retreated, 530. The uncle turned around and slashed with a few knives, and Stelius' wound also opened. It's over. The injury that Shi Wang hit me last time has not fully recovered. Try this trick. Fei Dao Lion stepped forward with a few slashes, and Stelius stepped back again and again. Go to hell. As soon as the words fell, Zeos flew towards Fei Dao Lion. Try this. After Rachel finished speaking, he summoned a pile of gravel and rubble to smash at the 2 of them. The 2 were beaten without the ability to fight back and instantly fell into a disadvantage. Suddenly, a big blue lion rushed forward and knocked 3 guys flying. You be *** D, what a man, Taro brother, the big transformation of the Lion King. Immediately afterwards, the Lion King changed back to his original knight form. Immediately after, a cannon shot shattered a beam of light. Kill them. Stelius struggled to get up, rushed forward, and fought with them. On the other side, Fei Yuma Kamiya and Luo Hao are chasing Kamiju Daiche, who is heading to the Book of Creation catalog. Wang Jian turned to look at them. Do you really think you can rewrite all this? All of this is already arranged in the book. Don't be naive, prepare to die. Having said that, Luo Hao inserted the sword into the drive. Read it to kill, time and space spiral gun. A laser cannon was instantly summoned in Shi Wang's hand. Shi Wang aimed at Wang Jian, shot past and blasted down Wang Jian. Immediately after, Wang Jian fell into the catalog part of the book. Abke Fei, you really drank. You're dead today. Immediately afterwards, the 3 began to fight. Luo Hao's combat effectiveness has always been on the table, and without much effort, he and Fei Yuying defeated Wang Jian together. Wang Jian stood up. Learn 3 flashes. Luo Hao dodged instantly. Fei Yu really. A familiar voice came. You goddamn be *** D. Luo Hao rushed over and slashed Kamiju Daiche until he couldn't lift his head. Luo Hao panicked. Thank you for reading this story at Fiction Zone. Net, your support enables us to keep the site running. You have no idea what the truth is. I'll go to your truth. Fei Yu really, you, Luo Hao fought with Wang Jian in grief and anger. Wang Jian smiled proudly. Fei Yu was really depressed thinking. After speaking, another knife slashed at Wang Jian's chest. It seems that I can't change anything after all, this world has been arranged. Why do you do all this? Isn't everyone's life worth mentioning to you? Fei Yu was really swallowed up by the power of darkness in an instant and immediately vanished into ashes. Fei Yuzhen suddenly felt that he was enveloped by the power of darkness. No, no, no. A wise man, Fei Yuzhen on the other side was surrounded by the vines of the power of darkness and was tightly entangled. Fei Yuzuo didn't react for a while and was hit all at once.
Hello, everyone! As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.